It's day 4 of 6 Invitational 24 here for the group stage, and we continue our little mix-up session that we've got going on. Yesterday, I was able to have a bit of fun with Des and Ace, and you know what? I said, let's keep it going with our EU talent crew. I wanted Hap and Fluke. Fluke's with us at the moment. We've gone switcheroonies here. They're on the A stream. We're here on the B stream. We've got some big games here today. Hap, excited?
I am very excited, yeah. And not only because we're now getting at that point where teams can actually find themselves eliminated, but also because we're going to get that clearer and clearer picture of how the group is going to be shaping up and how each of these teams is going to be for the remainder of the tournament.
Yeah, 100% right. We're getting to that kind of like finite margin where 2 days to go. These games matter for 2 different reasons. Top of the group, bottom of the group. Let's go to the schedule here and really see where things will lie. Stream B, Group A to begin. Geekay, NIP. Interesting stories there for our first game. We'll probably come back to that one, and we'll maybe just quickly go through Dark0, obviously FearX. That's probably a bit of a freebie for DZ. They've got really a team that's clearly struggled this event. And then later on this particular stream, Liquid and W7M. Someone's mismanaged the schedule here, Hap. That should be on the stream A, but that's fine. It's here on B.
Yeah, that's going to be a banger of a match as well between those two. Of course, W7M taking their first loss as well out of nowhere, so that might actually be a very important matchup for the group.
And the team that beat them as well to round out the end of the day for Stream B, Bleed Esports versus M80, a team that's clearly struggled a little bit from North America, so that's going to be another challenge for them. Over on the A stream, if you do happen to obviously jump by there later on today, of course, as an Oceanic person, Team Bliss versus FaZe Clan, that's kicking off over there very soon for Team Bliss. It's all been about close but not close enough. A lot of 7-5s, a lot of 8-6s. FaZe, a different story though, of course. SSG, then D+, Lost One, and Scars and Fury Sonics to close things out. Gotta say, Stream B's looking a little bit nicer.
I mean, I'm going to hop over to the A stream after this game, so I'm just here for this very first matchup, but Liquid W7M definitely very fun one to look at.
Big games again. You kind of touched on it a little bit as we go to the standings, at least here for Group A, as this is the first matchup that we've got. In terms of these kind of matches now, Hap, it goes both ways. You know, you kind of look at G2, Dark0 at the top, right? I know for a fact tomorrow they're very likely going to be battling for that top spot.
Yeah.
I think it's G2's kind of got the day off today. So yeah, they got the 5 points, but Dark0 will be playing FearX, as we can clearly see. FearX have really struggled, so you would imagine DZ get the job done, which does kind of now mean then for our game, Geekay and NIP. Now for NIP, probably not too much. They're in that middle portion. They can't probably get that top spot, probably not going to get that bottom spot. But for Geekay Esports, there's a world in which if they lose this, they have a do or die match tomorrow against FearX.
Yeah, that's it. If they lose this against NIP today, who, I mean, realistically speaking, will be finding themselves in the 3rd seed. That's just the way that we're looking at things right now. All they need is 1 point and they confirm themselves with the 3rd seed. So that's what they're aiming for at this point. But yeah, GK, an important matchup to come through. And even if they take a map off NIP, it's not enough if they don't win their game against FairX. So there's a lot on the line for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game where there's probably not that much pressure for Geekay Esports in the sense that they do still play FearX tomorrow, the team at the bottom of this group for Group A respectively. And I think also many would favor Geekay over FearX as well in that matchup. But you probably just don't want to get into that kind of scenario. Win today against NIP, and it's very much likely that we actually send FearX home today, of course, as they've got to play Dark0 later on.
I mean, we don't actually literally send them home today. They still have a game to play tomorrow afterwards, of course, as well. But it will be the tournament over for them. But that's also a dangerous scenario we sometimes see. At the moment that teams have nothing to lose anymore, they become a very dangerous opponent to play up against. And
it's valid.
And we have seen that like a lot over the last 2-3 years, where a team who's been eliminated basically just comes in and upsets some of the bigger teams who still needed those points because there's no more pressure. Suddenly, they play like they belong to go towards the playoffs. So, you know, it's always a bit of a shame.
And then you always sit there like, why
didn't you do this before?
Where was this day 1, day 2?
Exactly.
We'll see how that plays out. And look, not wanting to sort of write home either of those teams, obviously, there's every chance FearX could maybe cause an upset today against DZ. In terms of this matchup, though, for GK and NIP, where do you kind of sit in terms of not so much the prediction, but more so the 2 teams? Because NIP have clearly not really been maybe at their very best this tournament. There's been some question marks for GK. I think we all know they've got high ceiling, high potential as we get the map bans coming through. Consulate, Bank, and Border. Good news for those fans that are maybe just a little bit sick of that ultra super defensive sided meta, because so far at SI24, Consulate has been the most attacker sided map, and even still doesn't quite cross that 50% threshold. It's 47% in favor of attack. So still a bit to the defense, but it's close to that 50-50.
No, of course, and then everything is possible. And of course, Geekay, I think they pick it because they've managed to win it quite convincingly against Dark Zero with a 7-3 earlier on in the tournament. NIP, obviously, they will feel confident that they can actually take them on as well. They have a single play on it. It's a while back. Managed to win it with, I think it was a 7-0 back then. So
wow.
they definitely feel quite confident here as well. And that is now what we're going to be looking out for. How is that going to be eyeing up between each other? Because NIP do have 3 hammer lifters.
That
inside
is true.
the roster. It's not like it is, you know, of course, they've been on a rough patch, but there's a lot of experience on that team.
Yeah, there certainly is. We saw the predictions there as well in terms of the fan vote. 53% in favor of GK really does kind of nail home the tournament that maybe NIP has been having. As you said, 3 hammer lifters, but clearly not quite happening at SI24. We get into the bans, though, for Consulate. Map pick for GK again. You mentioned that taking down Dark Zero on this particular map. 7-3, pretty convincingly. Amaro gets banned out. Probably not too surprising. Certainly an operator that can have an influence on a map like Consulate. The Montang and the Valkyrie, though, banned out by GK. They clearly know what they're doing here on Consulate, and that's going to be the tough ask here for NIP. Of course, Bank after this will be their map. They get rid of Solus, and we're getting ready to get into this game. NIP start on the defense. Keep this in mind again. 47% attacker win rate for GK. So ultimately, they'd be aiming for like 3 attacking rounds here.
That's it. If you manage to get 3 attacking rounds or 3 defending rounds, you're basically still in that sweet spot in the middle. So it wouldn't be surprised if this does end up going towards an overtime in the end. And I said this before as well, like, NIP, you would expect them to be able to dispatch of GK fairly quickly. However, with the tournament that they've been having, the year that they've been having, this could just as well turn out to become like a 40-45 round game over the course of 3 maps. Finally decide who that victor would be. But that's kind of the point. Like, sometimes you look at matchups and it's like, okay, yeah, that's a clear blowout. Or this is definitely going to 15 rounds. And here I'm like, it's either going to be like a quick 2-0 for NIP, or we're going to get like a 40-45 round game that GK just manages to drag across the finish line.
Yeah, looking at some of the stats here as well for the teams respectively, as we're just in the prep phase. So looking at mainly the attacker win rate on a map where obviously attack is going to be a little bit more prevalent. 34% for NIP, which is actually not that bad, surprisingly. When I say 34% is not bad, it really isn't in this current meta. But 38% for GK is actually pretty decent. Albeit they're playing obviously these kind of Consulate maps, and that those stats will be a little bit inflated from say that Consulate win against Dark Zero. But something to keep in mind is they are decent at attacking, but the defensive goal between the team is 15%, 57 to 42. So clearly defense for GK has been a bit of an issue this tournament. They're not winning a lot of defensive rounds in a very defensive-sided meta. There's something to keep in mind as we then eventually translate to the second half. Cons is going to go straight in on the clash immediately to watch this main breach and be a bit of a nuisance. With that shield play, of course, no Montang. It has been banned out by GK, so NIP are like, well, you don't like the shields, we'll bring one on the defense.
It's just going to be trying to, you know, hold off the actual breach from the balcony. There's not much you can do, and if you stay up there, you're asking to be shot at some point because, I mean, again, like, all you can really do is just jump over the balcony and hope for the best at that moment in time. So now it's up to GK to try and find himself some entrances left, right, or center, and it seems like there's quite some pressure coming down onto the admin side of the map. 3 players up in Repel out there, looking to try and find themselves with a little bit of support, but as soon as you take that part, it's not done yet. Like, okay, you have admin, but it's only a portion of the map, and there's still so many rooms that you need to be fighting yourself through, and especially with the rework we've had of Consulate, it is just such a pain to have to clear every single corner.
Bomb located by attackers.
Just over 90 seconds. A little bit of a slowdown after that main breach over in the balcony got opened up. Shots here from Hashon, but shots back are even better from Wizard. Clean. A little response, though, from Trix as he's able to get the trade. Makes it a 4 versus 4. Still got that Thermite at the main breach on the balcony. If not mine, gets shot out by said Thermite. Obviously throws the flash in response, maybe anticipating that the Fenrir was going to peek off of that F not mine. That's Muzi, of course. Just over 60 seconds. Into admin they go now for Geekay or GK, however you want to say it. They've got themselves into a decent position in terms of the map, but they've still got to deal with this clash.
And the clash is going to be the big troublemaker here, especially because you want to get out of the admin area. But as soon as you do that, you come in that long hallway with the vending machines. Often it gets played by one of the defenders. Not actually going to be the case now, but because of the way that Cons is playing this, it's going to be very difficult for these attackers to try and collapse onto the player. And don't forget, they've already lost the Capitao. They've lost what is probably the best piece of utility they would have to try and deal with that Clash Shield. So now they need to try and get in close at the same time. Maybe force a bit of a mistake and a crossfire that can allow you to take down Cons.
Only 30 seconds remaining. Shots from Noodle down below in lobby, trying to get off of this clash. The yellow ping's perfect. Good information. Took them a little bit of time, GK, but they have eventually dealt with this clash. They've been able to just circumnavigate it, work it out as a team. They trade eventually, though, for Muzi onto x.ke. They lose the Thermite. Where's that diffuser? It's on Trix. He's got that on the Hibana. Someone to keep an eye on, trying to just get in towards meeting. Again, the gas babes, though, from Pino. One more still available. There's no time. We're into red time. Not going to have any kind of chance to get this plant down, especially with the angle that Muzi's got. Good shot from Noodle, but again, that time was a factor in the end. Big start for NIP here on Consulate.
Get used to the smoke canisters as well, because they were lining up on the exact same door that the canister was popped on when they wanted to go in for the plant. So that really forced them to go for a complete rotate. They didn't want to take and tank that damage and then still have to take a gunfight right afterward. I am a bit confused, though, by, of course, Cons on the Clash was being shot at from underneath, hole being opened up. He just stood there, didn't even respond whatsoever. You see it right here from Noodle, had the opportunity to reload and then get the second magazine in and take down that Clash. Of course, it eventually was still won by NIP, and I think that is something that the Clash really contributed to because there was so much time wasted. It took a long time before they had admin, a long time before they were able to get the hallway with the soda machine under control as well, and then it's on the site, so you cannot really try and push through instantly.
Great start, though, for NIP, considering this is the map pick of GK and what they've been able to do on this particular map already in the tournament. Down to the basement they go for the second round. Great start. Clash worked. They won't bring it again. I think that was pretty much intended seriously only for that main breach on balcony, and then was able to pivot late in that round to still have an influence eventually as well. Those gas babes were just absolutely suffocating GK's offense. And to be fair, I didn't think GK had the worst of rounds either. They clearly understood they needed to deal with the Clash. It just took them a little bit of time, too much time, and that was the biggest downfall, because as they're pushing into side, it's almost like a 3-on-1, 3-on-2 kind of scenario anyway. GK eventually got the job done, eventually dealt with the obstacles in front of them, but they just did it too slow in the end. And we'll see if they pick up the pace here in the second round as they go in towards emergency. First floor away, immediately can try and get some pressure in towards this basement area. Not wasting too much time. I see 3 outlines defensively for NIP on site, which means a little bit of presence up above.
Yeah, but Cons does have this mirror window to play with here, so he's going to have a good opportunity to get a nice early spot out on these players that came in from the emergency side. But this is also going to be giving away the opportunity for the rest of the NIP roamers to come in, start putting up some pressure from above, or come back towards the side that the pressure is going to be truly only horizontal. Now, we do have one player up above. It's Asham, of course, playing around with Ram, has the BOGs, is going to be opening up everything above the side that he possibly can. But Psycho's already done some of that himself. He's like, I want to make sure that we have that verticality so we can stop that plant from happening if they do manage to break through. And as they are actually engaging onto the mirror windows right now, it is a bit of a, one-directional push that we're seeing on the basement floor here.
Yeah, this is a massive horizontal stack here from GK. Curious to see the effectiveness of it. Of course, if you do eventually get this to work, it's going to be more of a cafe side, really, in terms of where they want to go for the plant. Pretty much ignoring Garage and then the vert that comes with it. Noodle can't win that battle in Con, though. Tries to go for the self-revive. Doesn't come through, though. The shotty from Cons is successful. Throws out a Nitrocell. No one there, though, in response. 3 versus 5 in favor of NIP. And this horizontal push from GK has been thwarted. Eventually, though, those bees are buzzing. x.ke gets the kill onto Cons and just maybe salvages the last 30 seconds or so, because it felt like NIP had done a good job of just really halting this push from GK.
Definitely a good job done there indeed, but Cons couldn't really go anywhere. Went up in the exact same spot he managed to get that very first kill from. As they start pushing through, taking care of the default cams, the smoke canisters again start popping. A little bit earlier this time, though, as there's only one left in the pocket of Wizard. That means there's about 20 more seconds where one of the entrances is going to be stopped as Asham comes in from above and the hatch manages to shut down one. There's still 3 more to be found. But as long as he's up there, that's going to be vertical pressure. Psycho will take down Kado, and we do see a rotation coming up from Muzi, so he's going to be trying to take care of Asham, which means that vertical pressure will be gone.
Seriously sneaking through Dungeon in the back. Bye-bye Psycho, and now to 2-on-1 with Vert as well for GK. Muzi by himself needs to probably deal with the fact that Hasham's up above on that ram, making those breaches off the Boogie Auto breaches. Hasham has opened up the floorboards, now through Dungeon and back in towards site. They've got the kit. They can basically just plant this right now because Muzi's nowhere near it. This is a free plant.
10 seconds remaining.
There's going to be a free plant. Flashbang's coming through to know where music is going to be coming from. And no, we are in a flashbang meta, all three being expended out here. But he has an idea of where that player is now. Just didn't know he was prone. That is going to be Geekay picking up the round against NIP.
Yeah, strange round because it starts off with that kind of horizontal push and you kind of think about basement or consulate. You really do want that vert up above and towards Expo, open up the floorboards, put pressure on Garage. Typically, you'll try and get main breach opened up. They ignored pretty much most of that until the very end. They sent Hashem, obviously on the ram. His job was eventually to get into Expo, open up the floorboards, but he did that late. Then they played the hatch game. And I think the reason why it probably worked, despite the fact that NIP got a lot of these early kills, was the fact that NIP then kind of drew away those members from the vert in, down, back towards basement. That then allowed GK to take that a little bit easier. They get a couple of kills from the vert, and ultimately they're in a position where it's a 2-on-1, and the 1's actually up above for NIP. The 2 are on site, easy plant, and it's an easy stop on the retake. 1-1 here as GK are on the board.
I mean, Musi decided to go upstairs as soon as the 1 kill from the hatch came in, but it was a long way up. And in the meantime, his entire team died on that ground floor. And then you saw him a bit hesitating, like, do I go back? Do I go for the top? Like, because if the plant goes down and there is someone still up above, there's no way you're going to be able to get that counter defuse on the way, right? Because they just have that verticality. It's a ram. You can almost guarantee that they've planted in a safe space. So he had to go for that top floor and clear it out, but lost a bit of time because of it. Then realized they went back down, and well, it'll be a very difficult and long fight to try and find both in that area.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit disappointed, NIP, with the opportunity that they actually had there. 2 early kills on a basement site that at various times is not always the easiest to defend. In fact, it's the lowest site defensively for Consulate, 40%. Every other site is definitely a little bit more preferable. Into the 3rd round we go. So far, good signs, though, from both teams. And it goes a little bit back to our pre-match discussion, where that sort of 3-3 scoreline, bit of 50-50, that's expected here on Consulate, and so far playing out that way early on. Seriously, now onto the Ying, a very prominent operator when it does come to Consulate, as obviously for NIP, yeah, they had a good start last round, just couldn't finish it off. They'll need to do that a little bit better here in the 3rd round.
Want to take some control up top, or at least blind whoever's going to try and play for someone of the verticality out here. But the diffuser is going to be dropped as soon as they try and go for the execute, as it is going to be Pino dropping 2, Combs finding 1 as well, and suddenly the quick push attempt that GK wanted to go for got completely shut down, as it is only up to 1 man standing, and NIP with a pretty clean cleanup. They didn't get the entry, didn't really matter though, as they just completely shut down everybody walking through that 1 doorway.
Yeah, I mean, probably an overemphasis there, I think, on just simply the Ying play in terms of those Candelas being like, okay, that's good enough. We can all just go in towards site, because GK...
It was also on the top floor rather than on the actual site they were pushing.
So I think in that instance there from GK, just got completely over-aggressive, didn't probably have all of the information necessarily required to make that kind of push that early into the round. In saying that, it's really difficult to be too critical, because we do like to see teams go for these kind of plays, but... evidently, NIP were just very much set up and ready for it, and that's kind of like the 2nd round in a row. I'm going to reference that basement side again, because it was a similar aggressive kind of push from GK. They sent 2 in early. They lost those 2. The only difference is they then were able to stabilize a little bit, brought it back to 3-4, slowed it down, and eventually played the map a little bit better. That time, though, they just lost way too many. Too quickly on the entry. Didn't get any kills back. Really good job from NIP. And 2 defensive rounds early on in Consulate. It's a good start for them.
Of course, and you know, going back to the utility usage, I understand why you want to flash the person up above, because verticality is often a way to shut down the jump in for the actual site they're at. However, if then there's 3 people jumping in from the window down below, walking through a single doorway, if there's a player out there, they manage to get the first. This early in the round, you expect the second to be following up quite quickly. It's no surprise factor really as soon as those Candelas start popping.
Well, I think we need to see a little bit more from GK. This is their map pick. They've already beat Dark Zero in this tournament. They're only allowed Dark Zero to get 3 rounds. Back time day 1 on Consulate. So for NIP to already have 2 rounds, clearly a good sign for them. A team that's probably left a little bit on the table so far at SI24. I think one thing they've done really well, though, is just sort of these early contact fights. They've contested them really well. Not giving up a lot of key positional map control. Happy to take these fights at the entry points. Nicely done from Wizard. Gets rid of a couple of drones. Little keeper barrier to plug back up. And 4 drones already gone for GK.
Quick use of the X.Caras there as well to break out some of those keeper barriers. In the meantime, someone already made it into the side of admin, though. So Sean playing quite close. And this is the exact same way that it went in the last round as well. But he got taken down quite early. This time it's Wizard to drop, though, by his hand. But he's going to be picked up right after.
Wow.
No, Hasham able to find a double kill instead. Almost dropped as he moved in. Psycho taking loads of damage as well. And it seems like a complete turnaround from a dominant like NIP round into Geekay just completely destroying the defense of NIP now.
Yeah, it goes against the grain from the last 2 rounds prior where NIP were really solid in those contact fights, winning in the map both rounds in a row. This time, though, Musi, he had an opportunity to even it up 4-4 over towards managers. He lost that battle, should have won it. Hasham should never have been able to get that flick turnaround. He does, though, opens up that full admin site. Now they can put pressure into sight. It's forcing out the gas babes as well early from Cons. Only has 1 left. In fact, now none, because he's dead. Headshot, x.ke, 5 versus 2. Better here from Geekay, just simply winning some of these raw gunfights. Pino trying to respond now with a couple of impacts, but to no avail, to no real success. And Geekay very much in a strong position to close this out. Psycho's not even close to sight. Big wrap rotate over towards yellow. Bubwire gives away his position. And Geekay will make it 2-2.
And it's a very convincing round for Geekay. And if you then look at the hand of what NIP had, they had the AFNATs, they had the Kiba barriers, they had the Goyo canisters, and the smoke canisters. And all we really saw was the Kiba barriers to be used to try and reinforce his position. But at that moment, someone already managed to make it inside the admin, and we saw a single smoke canister pop off. So it's like, where did all the other utility go when they tried to move in so quickly? You really had to slow them down a bit more. Was there no AFNAT on the door where Musi got pushed from?
I don't know. Maybe it got destroyed. We didn't quite see it because we weren't really watching Musi's perspective, but Hasham was able to just flick turn around. It
was a beautiful flick.
Should never have really been able to win that regardless. And a tech pause, by the way, as that's just come through, and probably in a timely manner, maybe for neither of these teams. Because there's no real talk. There's no real momentum. You can't talk things over anyway. But it's not like one team sitting there like itching to get back into it anyway. It's a very kind of like back and forth, 50-50 kind of game. So I don't think this really does anything for anyone, to be completely honest, which is always good. Nothing worse than when like a team gets like a super momentum-based round, and then it's like, oh, tech pause. Yeah, you can't talk, but still you kind of get to then have that get dissipated a little bit. But I think the issue for me there was it was a 2-man front over towards admin side. None of them could get trades. Musi only had the opportunity to get the trade because Hasham pushed through into managers. If he doesn't do that, there's no trade potential anyway. But even when he did push in, and that was quite fortunate, he still couldn't hit the shots. Because if he hits that shot, 4v4, and you've still got a bit of front contact over towards admin. Instead, they both die, opens up the site. Everyone can then flood in, and then they can start to play the util game. That forces gas babes out. Really nicely done from Geekay.
And that's kind of the thing with the admin side, right? Like, sure, it's a pain to get in because you have 3 windows you need to repel from. However, with the way that the keeper barriers are set up, it protects the player, like the Azami. However, also gives them a safe repel in if there's no other challenge coming in from copy or from the position that we saw Musi playing earlier. So it's like, if no one is out there, it's a free repel in. You can just can go and try and put the pressure down. So that is something to keep in mind. And of course, before the rework, when Console was still in the map, sometimes we saw mirror windows being placed on that door. And then, of course, you would have like a mute jammer behind it or a bandit wire just to make sure that there was no X.ke going on. But Kibas this time didn't work out.
I think you can kind of see the idea there with the Azami and the Kiba barriers playing that kind of similar role of just trying to, again, really stall out. That's
it's just to waste time.
Waste time, make it difficult.
A nuisance.
Yep. But life was lost pretty early, at least enough in that round, and then no trades come through. And then because you got everyone else kind of stacked on the back towards site, no one else was really able to get involved there. And then it becomes that tsunami because it's a 5-on-3 at that point. NIP can just get overloaded on site really comfortably. Even those gas babes aren't going to be able to, dispel the attack for too much longer. And speaking of too much longer, hopefully not too much longer for this tech pause. I am noticing everyone getting back inside of the lobby here for the 5th round to come. Been a good game so far, 2-2 scoreline. Set to begin, 3-3 is probably what at least Geekay would be aiming for. So as we go into this 5th round, at least one of these teams is going to kind of meet that pass mark.
Yeah, for sure. And we do have to say, though, like, if this is a 3-3, it is slightly favored to NIP, but not by, like, a rounds margin, but by, like, percentual margin, right? It's like 3% in their favor. So, yeah, just moving in there. None of the AFNATs have really seen activate. And of course, they could have been destroyed, but it's like they weren't stalled whatsoever. They basically encountered the exact same setup as they did in round 1, and this time they just put a lot more pace behind it. There was no clash this time, slowing them down either. And that really allowed them to just take those gunfights.
That's true, actually, because I think pretty much from GK's perspective, played it the same, open up above the breach. This time, though, again, no clash. That was a bit of a nuisance last time. It was really just that raw push in through admin. Yeah, they dealt with the keeper barriers. Obviously, they were able to win those gunfights. Hashom just goes big. And sometimes that's all it takes in Siege. It's just some raw individual gunplay that can really turn the tide in a round. Wizard, by the way, did drop out of the lobby, so he goes back to 0-0-0, but everyone else was able to reconnect and never dropped out. So, I don't know, maybe something happened with Wizard in that push when he was playing the Azami in the round prior. We'll never know. 5 versus 5. 2-2 on the scoreline here in the 5th round. So far, I think we've seen really good signs, at least from both teams. I think if you're a fan of either, there's definitely good takeaways.
Yeah, for sure. There's always something that you can be looking at here. And NIP finding those 2 early rounds is always quite helpful, of course, in all the current meta that we're playing, but also due to the fact that this is a 50-50 kind of game. So you want to get those 3 rounds in as soon as you can.
50-50, though. That is, of course, on GK's map pick. And a map that they've already won successfully against Dark Zero earlier in the tournament. Balcony Breach opened up rather comfortably. This time, Musi doesn't miss. The SMG-11 onto Noodle. Just went for a bit of a run. Musi holding the close angle, and, well, unlike the round prior, he obviously makes amends, and they've got themselves another early start. And again, this has probably now become a trend. Throughout the first 5 rounds, outside of like 1 or 2 here or there, NIP, for the most part, are getting a lot of these first kills in the round.
And it's also a little bit of a lack of droning out there. Noodle just face-jacked the room and found himself caught off because of it. Now they're on a man down. Logic bombs being used, however, no one's left on the top floor anymore. They've fall back towards the first floor, towards the basement, just to set themselves up in a bit more of a turtle position because they do have the man advantage right now. All they really need to be taken care of is the fact that they are not going to be shot through a hatch again. Like unseen, because they lost 2 members to that last time round, and they weren't expecting it. Suddenly it strikes them, and boom, suddenly you lose the round, because it could have been a 3-1 for NIP if it wasn't for the player up above.
This time around, though, you don't have that extra player. You also don't have the RAM. In fact, really, when you look at that operator lineup for GK, in terms of trying to maybe rotate someone over towards Expo, open up, get floorboard pressure, they don't really have that, per se. The Grim is nice, can dislodge, say, the Mirror a couple of positions on this push, but ultimately a little bit concerned here. And there is the Hive launcher being used here quite seriously as they now push through servers pretty aggressively. Seriously, not opting to really hold back too much, but Hashom has gone for a bit of a flank, pushing down in towards Dungeon. No real response just yet from NIP. They have been pushed back, though. And Collins is aware that the close angle has got an enemy. Yellow ping went out, 30 seconds left. Contact to come shortly.
The same position he was in before, though, and falling back now, but pings are coming through. Seriously, he's going to start to move through. He's going to be swung as well. His teammate dies. He gets the trade. However, not finding the second mirror. That was actually the crucial one they needed to find, because Collins is literally in the middle of everything here as Wizard shuts down the back flank to come through. He will finally die, but it's only up to K now in a 1v3 situation. 5 seconds left. He's out with a pistol. It's going to be shut down by Psycho, bringing it up to 3-2 in favor of NIP.
Yeah, really strong from NIP in that position. That time, I think they did a better job of actually falling back. You think back to the last time on that server push from GK, they got overwhelmed. They tried to take the contact, lost out. No one could trade. Eventually, then NIP hadn't had the numbers. Everyone else was running around. Instead, this time, it was a 5-on-4. Hive launcher gets used, clears out that mirror position. What do? You fall back a little bit at least. Try and relieve that pressure, force them into you. Time became a factor. There was only like 30 seconds remaining. Really well played from NIP, and it starts here and break from Musi. Opening kill onto Noodle, catches him off guard. You kind of said before, Hab, maybe a lack of droning in that situation could have been the reason for it, but you could even see here on the highlights, went to red time, and it's still like a 3 versus 1 in favor of NIP. Clearly, strong defensively on site. And they were able to make amends after losing out on Cafe last time out. 3-2 in favor of NIP going into the 6th round. They've got themselves an opportunity to take a decent little lead going into the second half.
No, that's for sure. And, you know, whilst we're talking, it is overall, this tournament has been a 61% defensive tournament. So you are expected generally to find yourselves with a 4-2 split. However, Consulate was that one exception we were talking about. But we also have to mention it was only 19 rounds played.
That is true. Small subsample.
So it's a very small sample that we're working with here. So I'm just going to tell NIP, you need to get that 4th round in to find yourself in a good opportunity to lock off this map 1. Then you have the opportunity to start looking to map 2, which, to be fair, isn't looking too hot for NIP.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Still plenty of rounds to come here on Consular. Hash on with the shock drone trying to just make his way in through Lounge, get some information. Noodle, well, a good response after losing his life very early on in the 5th round. He gets an opening kill here on the Ash in the 6th round. It's the Maestro, Pino gone. Nice start here for GK. They get themselves a bit of a rare opening kill.
Normally you wouldn't say that the Maestro is going to be the opening kills, like especially with the utility that's available. Like, you've just lost 3 of those cameras and a ping onto the Legion as well coming through. The rotation somehow managing to make it out. I'm not quite sure how he left unscathed there.
Yeah. Missed opportunity. Will that come back to haunt GK? Had the yellow ping.
Let's stay. Walked right out in front of the windows and managed to jump over the desk and take out the drone that was spotting him earlier on. So lucky for NIP though, because they need to find themselves in the best possible position. Considering the fact that they've just lost a man, can really afford to lose a second. Wizard though, very close to be taking himself into a fight as Cons takes some damage, goes to the DBNO as well, but it's still salvageable as they're trying to wallbang him from a long angle out there.
Wizard, tough angle, couldn't quite hit the mark. Of course, Cons is still knocked down. Seriously took some damage there, but with the numbers, nice swing. Seriously, headshot onto Wizard. Cons is down, so it's essentially a 5 versus 2. Muzi was big in the last round. We'll need to go big here as well. Psycho, nice kill, at least onto Seriously. That trade eventually comes through. Cons is still very much by himself. Psycho again over towards Spiral, and suddenly the round has just flipped on its head from a 5-on-2. What has happened here? Hashom can't make his way in. Finally shoots down the barricade, but that reveals his position. Finally, what is Psycho running around doing? The 1 versus 2 now. Back and forth we go inside of the final round of this half.
Plant attempt will be made. However, the Evil Eye is going to be giving information out to Muzi. He still has 2 impact in his pocket, which he can use to try and find a long angle. Will get it down, but he's moving up across, and Kay able to find himself in a safe angle right now after the second impact has been used. These pings, they are not working. They're wrong pings. Muzi trusted too much in them, and now 45 seconds counting down in favor of GK. Muzi needing to make a 1v2 clutch stand. Smoke canisters were used. Flashbangs still being tossed in as well. As the wallbangs are being attempted as well. Is it going to be able to find the very first opening? Has an ID, but cannot quite connect. Takes a lot of damage in the process out there as a second smoke will be used. And he just finds himself stuck now. The Super Shorty is being pulled out. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. But the time is running out. And it seems like GK is going to be able to lock in their 3rd round.
Smoked on the left side. Absolutely no chance. No time here now for Muzi. 10 seconds left. Nice headshot into K, but is not going to see this be a round win. It will be 3-3 at the conclusion of the half here. First map of the series goes for a bit of a stat pad. Probably shouldn't have. In the end, it backfires, and in the end, it's GK that get a much-needed round, because that was a doozy of a round. At one point, it was a 5-on-2 in favor of GK, brought back to a 2-on-2, but ultimately they get the job done.
Yeah, and again, the rotation, when you have to play on Spiral, was a bit of a... I don't know about that, because you lost out on an important player out there. If you would have stayed alive, if you would have stayed in that corner, it would have been a 1v1 basically on the side. Because as soon as Hashan gets him here, he has the opportunity to move off. You would have stayed in that corner, it would have been 2 1v1s on opposite sides of the side, but you cannot really plan if the other person is in that 1v1.
Just needed to even just delay a little bit of time there.
Just delay the time.
Call for a bit of help. Lots of things maybe could have gone a little different there, although you could say that for both teams. 3-3 scoreline, I think a very apt and fair one as well as we get into the second half now. We've kind of been talking about the fact this very well could be 3-3. Happy to say it is a 3-3. So we are going into GK's defense now, though. Of course, their defense hasn't quite been that strong at SI24. Something to keep in mind. And also on a map where, of course, attacking is a little bit easier. So we'll see what NIP are going to cook up immediately into a 4-attacker pick. They bring the Grim as well. Not too surprising to see the lineup that they have brought. No hard breach per se. In fact, not even any secondaries, but not really needed anyway on this site.
No, like not really necessary on the map. Maybe a barrage, right? That's the one where I would say bring a hard breach just so you can open up the barrage wall. Puts up a bit of extra pressure that they have to worry about. But for the others, you're generally okay. If you're just moving through the doorways out here, is hey, almost had the opportunity to toss a nice C4 up the skylight there, but decided against it in the end. To find himself with a 2K if he knew.
He's going to be able to break this one open. 3-3. It's been legitimately back and forth. 1 for 1 so far throughout the first 6 rounds. to begin with. No one has been able to win 2 in a row. NIP, one thing they did really strong back in that first half was those opening kills, early kills, contact fights. Maybe not every single round, but for the vast majority of them, certainly was a big part of their win conditions. For Geekay, though, it's the opposite. With those late game moments, they were able to scrap and get themselves back into rounds, get plants down. I think that's exactly what NIP are going to need to do here as well. Pino in towards Piano, shooting down below, trying to make that skeleton key useful, breaking up the floorboards, getting some pressure onto those up above defensively for GK. But right now, when you kind of look at the health bars, it's all NIP losing numbers.
But of course, they're working on that scrappy fight right now. All they really need is to find themselves that first opening kill so they can start push themselves through in a different kind of way. And we see a completely different kind of approach from NIP. NIP is trying to take fights all over the map, whereas what we had with GK is they're just going in from admin and they're pushing in as a team and hoping that that would stick. So NIP, they're just trying to find themselves a pick, like all playing across the map, all trying different things. Maybe one of them will stick, and indeed it does. Spina will find Hashem up above on that hatch.
Yeah, big, because Hashem was kind of looking down below and trying to maybe backfire there onto NIP, but instead gets caught on a bit of an off angle. Wasn't really watching that right-hand side. Second one comes through with the DMR from Wizard. That's a long-range shot, not an easy one. Nitrocell, it's good, but not good enough. Only gets Musi to just about half health. Trix will go for his own one. That will finish off Cons. Brings the round back a little bit, but at top yellow, it's a win from Psycho. Keeps NIP with the significant advantage, with the Bees now buzzing as well, providing the path forward for NIP.
And that gives them a clear idea of what is going to be safe and what's not. We only have 1 man left standing, but not for long, NIP. And that is a very dominating round, you can almost say, from NIP. And not because they just rolled in and killed everybody, but because they were very surgical, right? They were trying to open up these angles and then like slowly pushing them out of position. They find the first, and suddenly they can collapse all around the opening that's just been created out there. And sure, some of the gunfights maybe should have gone in the favor of GK there, but NIP, again, they're good gunners. Like 3 of them are hammer lifters. They have the experience. They know when they can take these 50-50s and come out on top.
CEO and meeting once again here. Back-to-back opportunities for GK. NIP continue this trend going 1-for-1 round between the two teams, which now means the onus is on GK to keep that trend going. Otherwise, 5-3 could be on the cards if NIP can kind of break that little streak that has developed here on Consulate. And one thing, again, that just continues to go the way for NIP are these opening kills. It's been the difference maker, I think, so far, but a difference maker that hasn't been ultra impactful when you actually look at the scoreboard. I mean, the scoreboard just says it's a 1-round differential. For me, though, I think NIP's probably been the better team, but the scoreboard's not quite reflecting that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It could have been 5-2. Let's
it's a 1-for-1 the whole way.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1 trade. It nicely continues on. But we do have to say that the first garage that GK won in round 2, that should have been an NIP round.
That's probably the one, Hap. I think that's the
good
one
we're looking at, indeed, because they had the advantage. They were able to shut them down. It's just that the one player unseen up top, able to find 2 kills from the hatch, rotate back around, and basically draw Muzi out from the anchor. Like, that is what we're looking at here as the potential difference maker. But we're continuing the console takes for now. They've decided to run it back on the GK side of things. And NIP probably will just be approaching it the exact same way again, trying to find themselves in an entry. However, it's Noodle that finds it.
Yeah, big though for GK. They need to get these opening kills flowing their way, and done so here by Noodle. Nice little angle here as well. Oh, shot back from Pino. Watching back up through said floorboard that Noodle was trying to also abuse. Brings it back to a 4 versus 4.
And I don't know if that's like the exact same angle we managed to get the first kill from, because you shouldn't be staying in that position, right? Because they're going to be calling it out. Oh, it's this angle that he shot me from. Oh, that's a really good position. He just gets shut down. He must have been droned out, as Muzi will find him. And now suddenly NIP in favor again. That they clear out admin, now have the complete opportunity to move all the way through Soda Hallway. No one there, nothing there to stop them. There's just a mute jammer that's inside the sink that is giving them a bit of a, is there still someone inside? We cannot get a drone in there to confirm.
Yeah, I think Hashem wants to push up on the ward and maybe look for something back here. Oh, good angle. Seriously, how does he not win that?
How does Pino win that twice? Like, that's the second time he's getting the kill from above. Cons will go down, though, by Hasham. He's now found himself in a bit of a forward position and is basically holding off all pressure from admin. Hey, down below is looking to find Pino. He's been such a menace this round for the side of NIP. If you shut him down, suddenly that vertical pressure is gone.
Yeah, K towards Spiral. It was Hashem up above. That was maybe a big win condition for GK. The fact they had 1 up, 1 down, but now 1 down is dead. 1 versus 3. K back up towards top spiral. Needs to pull off a miracle clutch here to keep this sort of 1-for-1 trend going. Otherwise, NIP can look to get themselves in towards breakpoint. 3 versus 1, and obviously K feeling like he needs to make something happen, but he's spotted towards long desk. This is going to be his life. Someone should swing. Flashes go out. It's a 3-on-1. They can overload his position, or they can just go for the plant. They can do whatever they want right now, NIP.
I like the repping as well. Usually I'm not a big fan of them, but it's making him worry right now. Like, they know exactly where I am. I cannot stand still. I cannot afford this. It means I'm Musi putting down that plant. 45 seconds now, counting down. They still have an idea where he is. Just gets shut down as soon as he tries to go for the very first peek into the actual try and retake. But he's alone. And you get rep pinged, and you're like, they're all around me. I'm going to die any moment. That's literally the first thing that goes into your mind at that point.
Yep. Tactical timeout has been called by Geekay, actually, of all teams. So they've obviously got and seen enough throughout the last 2 rounds. And that 5-3 scoreline not really pleasing them, considering what we've had so far. It's not been a horrible game. Obviously, they've been okay in patches. But for the most part, I think NIP, yeah, that one game, that one round back on basement that you mentioned early on at the start of that first half, if NIP had been able to get the job done in the round, then we'd be looking at like a 6-2 scoreline. And I think...
Yeah.
Is a 6-2 scoreline apt? Is it fair? Maybe, maybe not, but the 5-3 certainly now is. I would have been a little bit odd. It would have been odd to me if this was 4-4. So I think NIP deserves this lead. For GK, they've seen enough. Talk things over, see what they can maybe change.
And I think that, like, if we look at round 2 and how the vertical was a crucial factor here, we have to also look at the round we just had, round 8, with Pino finding 3 kills from below, no one being able to challenge him. And you saw K going down, being like, okay, I'm going to try and find a way out if he rotates up. But then you lose another member, and you lose another member. It's like, well, I'm alone now. So you're going to have to start moving. And having a good puck player like that, that's just able to win all those vertical fights whilst fighting up, that is such an important tool to have on your team.
Yeah, very incredible shots from Pino, the standout in that last round, and probably the standout so far throughout this map of Consulate, 11-4. But particularly in that last round with the double vert angle attacks that he was able to win, considering in both instances, GK were actively monitoring those floorboards. It's not as if they were just sitting there, completely unaware. They were trying to shoot back down below.
They saw him first.
Exactly. Pino was just a bit sharper, a little bit quicker, more skilled. And NIP so far being the better team now, 5-3 scoreline on the map pick of GK. Bank to come after this. This is certainly the kind of game that if I'm NIP, I'm thinking, so far, look, this tournament hasn't been our best. It's been a bit rough around the edges, but a 2-0 against GK could be a bit of a confidence booster.
Of course, that brings them back in, right? Like, it basically takes them out of any risk that they will find themselves, first of all, in the lower bracket as things go on, or even, like, the how do you say that? It's not disqualification. You just kicked out the tournament because they
grouped.
Yeah, grouped. There you go. It's like, so they lose that little bit of pressure that's upon them. They can really start focusing on what is up next in the next stage of the tournament. And, you know, it is a long tournament. If you start slow, it's fine as long as you're still in the tournament to really heat up in.
A couple of goo mines being taken out here pretty comfortably by Pino. Lesion from Noodle. Noodle probably been one that's been very influential, but maybe not always for the best reasons. At times he's getting some of the opening kills, but also it goes back the other way. He's certainly trying to make these contacts. Gun barrel sticks out, bot spiral. Muse, he tries to get a decent little angle here on the ramp. It's been a bit prevalent on the Consulate map. Those boogie auto breaches being able to get a lot of damage done, especially coupled with Buck. You can really play into that vert, as Consulate usually does play out in that fashion.
It's a very heavy first floor hold that we're seeing here for GK, considering the fact that we're in the garage. Wizard takes a lot of damage, is not able to really return any shots towards Noodle.
None of those landed.
None of them landed. Opening kill will go towards them. Trellix will be shut down, though, right afterwards by Pino from that long angle. And this is kind of what I was going to be aiming at. They're all playing in that first floor, but there's lots of long angles that they've set up for themselves to play with, and they're getting punished by them. Of course, they're finding some kills themselves as well. But if NIP realize that there's only a single person on the site, they could just as well go for an execute as Pino now finds Noodle.
Yeah, off the back of his own Candela, Pino pushes in eventually from con side, gets the kill onto Noodle. 3 versus 3, bit back and forth here in this 9th round off the back of the timeout from GK to talk things over. Yellow stairs double stack now. Hashem also making his way down below. There's a Soto canister. Like the way that was used. Think that might have just caught Pino off guard, or at least threw him off guard a little bit as he was peeking down Yellow. Couldn't really move. Couldn't move into a better angle. And because he was very stagnant, easy kill for Hashem. He goes to double digits. I liked what I just saw there from the Duke round. 45 seconds remaining. Advantage for GK. Can they capitalize though? Close out this round.
the thing. We do still have Psycho up above now. He's going to be playing around with that bug. So if seriously goes for a bit of a misstep, especially when you throw that key, but I know exactly where you are right now. Flashbang's coming through. It's going to be opening up the opportunity for Cons to move through, but Psycho gets shut down from the player. That's a yellow, and okay, just shuts him down indeed in the end. GK will find themselves with a return round after their tactical. And I'm just going to say, though, they were very heavily focused on that first floor. I think they were very vulnerable to a direct side approach if NIP would have read that.
Yeah, potentially. I think you're right. If it had been a bit more of that server approach, GK, I think they're more than happy to maybe give that up, feeling as if, okay, well, we can maybe deal with that because we can always rotate eventually through bot spiral into dungeon and then maybe coming from the backside anyway if they do opt for that. Love this little moment here again with the Zoto counter. Yeah. Then eventually went back up yellow, knowing full well NIP still had one up above, playing the vert. He's like, well, at that point, you kind of have to go and deal with that, and he does over towards that yellow stairs position. So big round win for GK. On a map, obviously, that they've picked. They've already won so far at this tournament against DZ. You give them the ability to come back into this one. No one's certainly putting a line through them. And now at 4-5, into the 10th round we go. They've got themselves into a position where, all right, the scoreboard looks a little bit nicer now. It's not, that 6-3 kind of territory. It's only 5-4. And certainly a lot better from them defensively. Hashem 11-5, Pino 13-5. They've been the two standouts for their teams respectively.
It's funny how Pino just swaps from like any given operator, right? Like he was playing the Buck, it's a huge 3K. Then Psycho's playing the Buck instead, so he swapped off. Now he's playing the Hibana. But he's able to find that impact on every single given operator that you really put him on. Again, like really standout player for the game that is currently going on so far. Now we find ourselves in exhibition after console went wrong twice. The Garage was of course won by GK, so not really any other viable opportunity that you have at this moment in time. So they do decide to go out there. Now, this is where GK went for a bit of an aggressive push themselves when they were attacking it. But again, NIP probably going to try and split themselves all over the map, try and go for some 1v1s, try and put some pressure down, try and put a dent into the defense somewhere so they can start looping around the opening that they hopefully would find.
Yeah, and look, I've been very, very happy to give the plaudits to NIP, but right now it's starting to also kind of look like the Pino show. And if it's not Pino, who else is it going to be? And if he's not getting these really sick kills and opening things up and able to win the vert battles, then I feel like NIP maybe are lacking a little bit in that firepower, and GK can exploit that. And if I'm Noodle and I'm 5-8 and I'm happy to play the contact fights as he has so far, it's like, can I go and find Pino? Can I at least go and get that kill? Even if I get traded, even if I die, that's kind of a mission he could try and embark on. As the shock drone thrown over towards yellow, Mute Gem is in place though, and Psycho won't be able to get really anything from that at all. Eventually dealt with by Seb Mute anyway over towards bot yellow. Minute 40, time to factor a little bit here. A little slow going for NIP. Wizard out towards his window position. Did spot K, who did want to obviously go for something there, but shot back. Little DMR shot always does hurt. Pino, well, again, he's the man to kind of watch in this scenario, and he does maybe find his way close by to Noodle.
And they're definitely eyeing up to go for an impact. They get shut down from above. Wasn't aware of the vertical being out there. You lose your big impact player as a result. Now the others will have to step up as Wizard will find seriously though. That's the Warden gone. So always a big pick, especially in the meta with the amount of flashbangs and smokes that do get used for executes every now and then. And the Psycho will find one more as well. It might still be NIP that can really bring this one across the finish line.
And it goes back to what I was saying, right? No Pino and no NIP. While they're going to prove me wrong here with the way that they've been able to at least get things back after losing their star man, they've been able to get some really good responsive kills, especially from Wizard, low on health, getting involved on the Doherty. Hashem, though, he's already shown so far, at least in this series, he's got the ability to find a couple of kills back, go for a bit of that counter punt late in these rounds. He couldn't quite push up server stairs, though, couldn't quite get involved. 30 seconds is all that remains here into the 10th round. Noodle can't win his fight. It is now only Hashem left in the 1 versus 4 for GK. Otherwise, NIP will find 2 match points here. Hashem with only 20 seconds to try and deny plan. That's his best win condition. Try and find Cons, but no, Wizard finds him. Head has been taken off. 2 match points for NIP.
Really showing up huge here, and we said it. You said it before. Pino goes down, the rest needs to show up, and that's what they did here. But again, like, okay, you might lose that very first one, but they're pushing and pulling at every single given corner of the map, trying to force themselves on entry, and they find an opening, and they start utilizing that. And you see the entire team just rotating around the area that they've just started to get.
Yeah.
And you know, this is what many have been talking about before. It's kind of what you need to do every now and then. Whilst GK under attacks and really attacking from one site, you see the complete opposite from NIP, where everybody's taking their own fights on their own.
Yeah, and again, I think very much a deserved scoreline. 6-4, NIP looked a little bit better. Did beg that question a little bit. Is it the Pinot show? Is it only down to that one player for NIP that's really winning a lot of these rounds? Well, they were able to obviously highlight in that last round that no, it's not just the Pinot show. They've got other weapons. Wizard got involved in the DMR. Psycho's being good. And even despite that, Moosey's had some impact kills too. And sometimes you kind of look at the numbers and you think, oh, only 5 kills, but a couple of those kills have been quite impactful. So for Geekay now, they've got to offset 2 match points. On the defensive consulate, their map pick, NIP have certainly looked a little bit more clinical here today. Day 4 of groups. And I think right now they are the favored of the 2 teams to finish off consulate here. The onus is on Geekay to change that narrative.
Now, after the technical timeout, they haven't picked console office anymore. And after we've seen Garage, we've just seen the exhibition, they've now gone to Tellers. It's the opposite side. And you know, I'm still a bit mixed about that. Split sides on different floors is always a bit difficult to truly get a good hold of as a defenders. As if you lose one floor completely, that means that an opportunity for the plant is going to be there, especially if the bottom floor gets taken out first. C4s really help Hashab.
Oh, Hashab?
What are you doing there?
What?
Why are you outside?
That's a free hack as well.
I mean, the pulse is still out there. Noodle must have been guiding him with that pulse, telling him where he could find those free kills, but he gets picked up for it, and that is a crucial pick in a very important round.
It's strange for a multitude of reasons. One, you're in the Legion, so you don't necessarily want to be getting too over-aggressive. You've got utility that's going to generate throughout the round. Now at 2 minutes left, none of those goo mines are going to generate and get thrown out inside of the server. Not only that, Hasham's been their best player. So you probably don't want your absolute best going out in a bit of a 50-50 do or die, go up in flames kind of play and gets punished, and now you lose a lot of your firepower as well as being just typically a man down as well. NIP are in the driver's seat, the box seat, to try and take out this map of Consulate away from Geekay.
Of course, if it's a guaranteed kill for the jump out, you might want to consider it, but you still have to walk outside quite a bit, and you get spotted, and it's just the perfect, like, 100% ping that is going through live. It'd be very hard to not pick up the kill as the attackers at that point. Kalo, ready with the C4, is hoping for someone to step in so he can toss that in and hope for the best. Pino taking a little bit of damage from the player that's on the spiral stairs, so he's going to be falling back, going for a different approach, realizes that he needs to stay alive. Sneedle will find a kill onto Wizard, so we will be going back to that 4-4, very heavy hold onto the ground floor here for the side of GK, but that doesn't really seem to be the priority of NIP.
Yeah, I think NIP probably anticipating more of a Talus hit here at the moment. Seriously, again, top spiral. 50 seconds, so time's okay, but it will dwindle very soon. Pino, the drop, and guess who's watching? It's Strix anyway. 4-on-3 now, advantage for GK, looking to offset these match points, and so far, first go, and so far looks like it could be successful. In towards Talus. They do have the diffuser. Collins gets rid of the BPC. Can they get this plant down and then force GK into a retake scenario? Keeper barriers blocking the doors. Seriously over towards Spiral. Has the red ping, has the info. Couldn't get the kill. Impact won't be successful. Now he's full white, but he gets the kill anyway onto Musi. Psycho to go down, and GK will be able to offset at least one of these match points straight away. 5-6.
Again, it is difficult to attack their split sites, especially if you do not have the bottom floor under control, because the verticality is just shooting up at you the entire time. Really gave them the opportunity there to come back into that round. 5-6, one more opportunity for NIP.
Certainly can be a tricky site. Surprisingly enough, servers Talus goes both ways, right? You think, okay, well, we can get into site, we can get into that Talus, but we haven't cleared server, and therefore they've got the vert down below. It kind of started again with that really strange run out from Hasham off the back of the pulse. Plays sure, but needed to do a lot more. Thought maybe from that moment it could be all that crumble mode for GK, but they actually kind of held their nerves a little bit, focused back over towards site. Didn't get too over-aggressive after losing Hasham. And I thought they actually stabilized that round really well. Now they get to go back down to basement to try and send us to overtime.
You know what would have saved that round? A Thatcher EMP in the middle of the room. The Pils could no longer use the cardiac sensor. The C4 that got tossed out wouldn't be exploding. The bulletproof camera wouldn't be able to see.
10 seconds to insertion.
Gives you about the time that you need to go for a plant, and they would just be blind. They just have to fire blindly, try and get the shot out.
Some absolute like 4D chess thinking from you.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking of right now. Like an EMP from Thatcher would have been able to just completely disable all the utility and information they had. Because you usually think of that of just making sure that the walls, you know, open up and that you get rid of mute jammers and bandit wires and electric claws, but it works for everything. It even works for like the scopes. Like you lose the reticle at that point. Luckily, these players don't need that reticle to shoot in the middle of their screen, but it's like it could have worked. It's all in the past.
Big change up though for NIP, a bit more of a roam clear setup than the Ying Jackal. Nope. Seeing Pino already use those Candelas at times to just kind of clear out rooms and just then be able to peek off of that. You see hunting down based off of a little bit of information. Thought I saw maybe a red ping or so. Pino secondaries available to open up the hatches. There's one more available, but two still as well on Collins on that buck. Like trying to get some information from above. Really smart. Catches the Legion. That's going to be Noodle. Now being tracked momentarily off the back of the Inox scanner. Jumps all the way back in towards basement. Throws out a Kumite. A little bit of information there from Hasham with the Yokai. Drone on drone action here towards Spiral. And Hasham wanting to retreat with his drone alive and intact. And a bit of a different round in terms of the makeup. It's a 5 versus 5 hat. We haven't had that early contact. No crazy runouts. No early kills for either of the two sides, especially from NIP. Is Pino using the Kindalas just to push down yellow stairs again. Kind of did that earlier in the previous rounds, clearing out, pushing rooms. Now doing it for yellow. Less to obviously use them for sight, but I guess to get himself into a good position cleanly and safely. It's not awful. These are the little shots that NIP were doing much better. The vert angles, they were winning those a couple of rounds ago. Now Geekay getting some good shots onto cons.
Could have just used the drone as well, you know, for the yellow stairs.
Could have.
Would have saved your 4 Candelas for the execute, but that is what it is. Still some utility left to play with here. Yokai drones are going to be problematic. I don't know if you see it, but there's lots of vertical angles. They might even be able to get that sonic burst down all the way through there if the first one drops that's actually on the site. So NIP are going to have to dig in deep. They're going to have to go all the way towards the kitchen if they want to be able to lock this one off. And as some shots are coming through, some shots are being returned by Pino, not really connecting anything whatsoever. Moose still looking to find a player. He's going to get some yellow things to come through. He's just delayed, just moved out of the way. And again, they kind of failed to get the opening that way. 30 seconds, they need to start to make a push happen somewhere.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time remaining here. Psycho again off a miss ping. They just keep moving around GK, not sitting still. It's been absolutely annoying for NIP. Now towards server side push for them, but there's just absolutely no time. Keep the eyes on Cons. He's got the diffuser 1-for-1 track there. Well, there goes Cons, and here comes GK. 4 versus 1, an absolute slaughter on side. They have been able to offstand and withstand the double match point that was set up by NIP. They send us to overtime.
What is it we said in round 1? That this was most likely going to end up in an overtime game.
3-3? 3-3 halves?
3-3,
overtime?
3-3, yeah.
It probably hasn't eventuated, though, the way it was shaping up in that first half. Because the first half was really sort of that back and forth, one each round. NIP got that 2-round buffer, and at that point certainly deserved it. So GK, off the back of that tactical timeout, they flipped it. And I think you mentioned it before, Hap. It's about maybe feeling as if CO was not working for him. Let's move away from that. Let's try elsewhere. And it's worked.
It definitely worked. And, you know, NIP to try the best. Didn't have to go back to console again, which they, of course, have a very good plan. But you could see how it worked out. Everything just, like, to perfection almost. Couldn't quite make it stick. And that's where the trouble comes in now. It is going to be GK that starts in the defense. And yes, it was a 3-3, but they've been able to find 2 sites where they've been able to find victories on. So they're not going to be going back towards console. I can almost guarantee that. It's going to be probably Garage that we see. And I think the Tellers maybe even to come up. And then the question is, how will NIP be able to transition to that? Or are we going to see them go out like lights out right now for a quick take on the side? Because if you look at it, there's loads of roamers out here.
One thing I haven't touched on, Hap, and I'm only just brought this up, is the fact that this is NIP's last game of the group stage, last series of the group stage, right? So if they lose this, they'd be stuck on 4 points, which means Fearex would have 2 opportunities, one against DZ later today, and then one tomorrow against GK to maybe send NIP out in last. So they really would love at least one map to get that 1 point. Would be so crucial for them just to confirm that they won't get grouped. Big overtime coming up now for NIP. The attack has been stalled out. They have not been able to break down this GK offense. Last time out was above, then eventually through server. This time a bit more so towards the garage side of things. Yokai there in place from Hasham. He's called off a little bit individually, but everyone else on GK, look how even. 7 kills to 8 kills for Noodle. Everyone is pulling their weight for GK.
Slightly less than NIP, and Cons is not having the best of games so far. The rest is doing quite okay. Now, they've opened up the garage wall, but have decided to go for a rotation afterwards. There's 2 minutes left on the clock. It is plenty of time. However, there is a roam game slightly on there for the side of GK. We have a couple of players on the staircases. They could easily just step out, start doing some pressure up above. Shami's currently droning around, trying to get some information as well. That verticality that could potentially be used. Just going to be waiting off now. It's like, what are you going to be doing? Let's see when you start opening up. Maybe even prepare your C4 as a result of it.
Yeah, that trigger discipline, I would just be bursting that. In ranked, I'd be like, nah, screw it. I just got to cause the concussion.
Specifically.
Minute and 15 seconds remaining. GK, I think GK would be pretty happy with what they've got so far. The information off the back of the Yokais, good position on site. NIP haven't really gained a whole lot. A little bit of vert now coming through here through Pino. He's gone a bit quiet in the last 2 rounds. C4 gets shot out. Ping is still there over towards Piano. Hashem continues to just play. One thing I will say, GK haven't been able to do much off of that information.
No, for sure. They haven't really been able to reply to it. Like, you could have prepared before. Okay, he wanted to throw the Candela. The Echo drone just stunned him there, so he's got pooped back in pocket. I think he found the Yokai drone. The call comes in now, and that kind of means that an execute needs to start going through. Seriously, Will find Pino as the opening kill off this round. 40 seconds left on the clock. They're trying to force themselves through the breach, but they also need to make an entry point elsewhere, and that's really not happening so far. There is someone watching all the way through the hatch, but if you're not getting anything done, you're not going to be able to get that plan down. As Noodle will find Cons as well. Some shots being sent through the floorboards by Wizard, but again, NIP, what are you doing? Where are you? Why are you not trying to take the site?
Yeah, Psycho was the backup man for Cons. It's GK flawlessly to kickstart this overtime on their map pick. And in response to this little 3-round run from GK, NIP's seen enough to call the tactical timeout. Starting to feel like this map has slipped away from their grasp. They were up 6-4 hap. 3 rounds in a row now for GK. 4 of the last 5. Where has this come from?
I don't know. I mean, of course, the tactical timeout that was called by GK, basically, I assume what they were told, do not go back to console and play your game on the other side. And that's been working out for them. They've been able to get the important picks and basically make life a little bit uneasy. And if we then look at NIP, Pino hasn't dropped a single kill anymore since round like 9.
But that is such a strange round last round. Cons coming in through main bridge garage. You're playing the Buck. You've got Diffuser. Like, you want your Buck up above playing Vert, opening up floorboards. Instead, he's just kind of like slow crouch walking through with hit, dies. Then Psycho does basically the same thing. It's like, well, okay, I'll come in now as well. Slow crouch in, pick up kit, die. 2 players essentially did nothing there for NIP. I obviously get you want to get the plant down, but they haven't really cleared out sight. They haven't really done anything with the Vert up above. That was just a really stagnated attack from NIP. One key thing for GK was they had a lot of information as well. The Yokais up above, Piano, they kind of knew what was coming. They understood that there was a larger focus on garage that side rather than server, which means you can bring everything from server side to garage side, deal with the Vert. GK played it perfectly, and like you said, basically haven't gone back to CO, and ever since then, 4 out of the last 5 rounds for GK. Whatever was said in that tactical timeout has just done wonders.
Yeah. And I also have to point out, though, NIP, whilst their rounds that worked, of course, worked console, and was the exhibition that they managed to win, their approach was all over the map. Everybody was picking their own fights, everybody was doing their own thing. And of course, it's risky, right? Because if you lose your 1v1s, there's no way you can really trade. However, that was working out for them. What we've seen in these garage takes is everybody kind of pushing in the same direction, but they weren't really doing the work for it. They've opened up the garage, they've opened up the hatch. Where's the rest? Where's the smokes? Where's the flashbangs that go through? Where's the person pushing down from like the back to try and sow some chaos right before you hit? Like, it was only half done, that execute. They didn't have everything they needed. Whilst the men were definitely there.
Well, they're on the defense now for NIP, but even if they win this, they have to go back on the attack once again, and clearly that's been something they've struggled with. Noodle, probably the kind of player that's just going to really benefit from these rounds, the confidence that comes from it. He was already someone. When GK was struggling a little bit down a couple of rounds, he kept trying to make things happen. Well, eventually the damn wall will break. K to open up main breach over towards balcony. They've done this a couple of times, GK, when attacking into this site. Eventually, then the focus will be on the admin side, Repel, try and flush out Wizard on the Azami. Kind of done a decent job of that already. Still 2 minutes to go. And Wizard probably not in the position he would like to be, instead just roaming around this hallway position.
He might have just decided that it's not worth holding on to, because you are just finding yourself vulnerable as soon as they do get themselves inside of admin, because there is just multiple angles they can find you from. Best way to do this is to just put cons on that clash and let him waste as much time as possible and be there to support him if he needs it. But what we also need to see is that they cannot allow Noodle to just shoot him down from below again. And he's going to use his S-charge. He's going to be holding the door because they know that there's going to be a clash out there. This needs to be challenged by his teammates.
Many cons feels like the win condition here for NIP defensively. 3 and 11. Take the gun off and put him on the shield. See if he can be that nuisance. Stall out. Buy some time. So far, successful. At least in denying any kind of push up through service stairs. A bit of admin pressure starting to come through now from Geekay. Noodle still down below. They've done this before, though. You think back to that opening half app. And they were able to deal with the clash. They were able to shoot it out from down below. Flashes, both of them, full white. The player, though, tucked in. Left side corner. Is GK aware of that?
Oh, they knew he fell back. They just checked the balcony, so they're going to be aware of the fact that that's going to be clear now. Noodle's still trying to put up some pressure from below, but all he's really going to be doing is opening himself an extra, 40 seconds. They're rappelling up on the balcony right now. That is K with the diffuser. He's just sticking out there. And Hings are coming in on this position.
They have to overload the clash.
They need to find Muzi.
Yeah, they have to overload this clash. Allow K to get in towards site. Under 30 seconds. Cons very low, but not dead just yet. Seriously, massive kill. There's the trade, though, from K. K hit down balcony. That's where it is. Double stack coming through the doorway. Tricks, though. Big kill on Pino. Second one from Seriously. The clash is all that remains, and remains for no longer. GK Esports for the second time at this tournament will take Consulate against one of the big dogs. They beat Dark Zero here. They take down NIP. They take their map pick.
A deserved victory in the end, because whilst NIP was leading in the majority of this game, as soon as like those last 5-6 rounds started to come through, everything just kind of started to fall apart. Ever since the timeout that they've called in, things just started to click for GK. They decided, console, that is not our site anymore. We are not going to be playing that. We know how to win everywhere else.
Yeah, what a game. Fascinating all the way through. It felt like, at least for large portions of that match, Hap, that I thought NIP were probably the better team, at least through maybe the first 9 to 10 rounds or so. Then we get this magical tactical timeout, and then it's like 5 out of 6 rounds go the way of GK, and they just looked so much better, so much cleaner. I mean, even in that last round, you could see what they were trying to do. You could see what they felt like was their win condition. Deal with that clash, allow for K to get in, and once they did that, then they basically won the round. Overloaded position, they had the numbers of 3-on-1, and in the end, a really well-earned victory for GK, because there's one thing to win, and it's another, though, to win when you're kind of losing a little bit. They turned it around.
Definitely turn it around there. But before we break this down any further and head towards the next map, we are going for a very quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with you shortly.
1 hour to watch that first half again and then walk away from the screen, because that was where things looked so damn good, Ollie. But unfortunately, after the first half, it went downhill.
Womp womp.
Yeah, we can see there from FaZe's celebrations after map number 1. It did go the way of FaZe, but not through lack of trying. I think Bliss did a great job in the opening half of that map, as you say. They did a lot of the hard work, Fox, but they weren't able to convert a lot of those rounds.
I know, I really loved the ability of the Grim being used out from Bliss, the way that they were pretty much locking down FaZe from being able to move and help each other on the trade on their attacks. But I just really thought that, I'm going to start calling it the side swap curse. I really think as soon as the side swap, everything goes downhill for Bliss.
Yeah.
They show a lot of potential, but once the side swap, I don't know if it's the fear settling in. It isn't dependent on map or side. It just really starts to creep in the, you know, maybe it's the getting so close, but not finishing out.
Yeah, look, coming into this, Ollie, I think 23% attacking win rate for Bliss. And we went to Clubhouse, a map that only has roughly 30% attack win rate. Then they go on 4-2 the first half on their attack. Can you explain to me? Hello?
I mean, it wasn't just a case of Bliss doing fantastically well on the attack on Clubhouse. We've got to give props to FaZe as well, because FaZe did an equally good job. It just so happens that Bliss
They did a better job.
They did a better job. It just so happened that Bliss did it first, and we weren't really expecting it out of Bliss as much.
Yeah.
But they did a fantastic job. I love the way that they were focusing on exploiting some of those players on the side of FaZe that weren't only over peaking, but were getting a bit too overzealous. They did a fantastic job of just holding the line on that attack, utilizing things to really give themselves the advantage in the push. There were a couple of good occasions of Garage getting taken really nicely there from Bliss.
I've actually got a question for you, Fox.
Yes.
Could you tell me what the difference was between the attacks of Bliss and FaZe? Because it felt like FaZe were far more dominant. Even though we saw some incredible rounds from Bliss, FaZe were in more rounds, more often than not, had 3 or more left alive.
Absolutely. I mean, once the sides were swapped, Bliss actually only was able to get 1 opening kill. FaZe was doing a really good job at just staying alive, and I love to see that because we highlighted a player like Cyber, who was playing very aggressive in the past games, and he wasn't able to find too much success. But in this game, he actually was tidying up and just playing with his teammates and not allowing him to lose and give an advantage to Bliss, and just strengthening the whole dynamic of FaZe's attacks.
You can see it there. I think Cyber ended up with 3 and 1 on entry. So, you know, that kind of maybe paints a picture as to how things have changed a little bit from the pre-show, from the discussion that we had. Look, a close match overall. And I don't know how much we need to dwell on it. It's done. It's dusted. FaZe have now pretty much gone 1-0 up in the series. They're looking very, very confident.
FaZe looking great, you know, it's a classic FaZe, right? They are never out of the fight. They can go down a good number of rounds at the start, come out at a 2-4 split, and still come out there and perform. We've got some great highlights here from Bliss and just some of the ways that they were looking to get around on those attacks. And, you know, maybe a few times where it maybe just didn't quite work out, but their success in taking Garage was fantastic. One thing I would love them to do is start looking down on the floor. You were saying that Aussies don't like looking at the feet, and we saw so many frost mats getting brought in there.
Yeah. How many did ended up getting hit?
I think it was 2 or 3, but
yeah,
it's 2 or 3 too many, right?
They're definitely, I mean, you hear it, right? Like, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it no matter where you go. There's always a pop and the, you know, like, there's pain. There's pain. Look, Wettables is in good standings. He's got a smile on his face. I guess you kind of have to. You are up against, technically, the second-seeded team coming into this. Speaking of the second-seeded, let's go to the second-seeded map. We go to Bank now, Fox. Does this make it even worse?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
Bliss has been very strong at the start of their games. It's just about converting it onto the half. They've been very good on their attacks and their defenses on Bank in their prior games, but against FaZe, it's just, you just can't let the ability to them execute just struggle against Bliss's defenses.
We've got to look at the Wolves game that Bliss played on Bank.
Yeah.
It was, again, surprise, surprise, a 7-5 to Wolves, but it was another occasion where we see Bliss come just so close to getting the job done and not managing to get it over the line.
Yeah.
This was actually, the Clubhouse that we've just seen was the least close map that we've seen Bliss play so far. So hopefully now going into that Bank, hopefully they're going to have something to show us.
Hope. That's what OS is built on. That's what I'm built on. And I'm hoping that Bliss can do something here, because otherwise they are looking down the barrel of a very scary final day here for groups. It's time to get underway with Bank. Emmy and Gus to run you through it.
They say happiness comes from many different avenues and bliss is sure to follow. I think the only bliss that can come right now for Manic and maybe a couple of others is bliss getting a map. They were close and then everything fell apart.
Yes, and Bliss have struggled on the attacking side of Siege so far at the tournament, much like many others, but on the previous map in the series of Club, they actually got off to a phenomenal start. Unfortunately, their defense fell apart, and they head into Bank. Phase's pick, now trailing. As you mentioned, Em, this is a map synonymous with Brazil, so if Bliss want a chance at pushing it to a third, they're going to have to play the best we've seen so far.
It's a slightly tall ask. I think always going, look, we need you to play at your best, especially after the first map. Now, if these two maps were the other way around, and they were sort of coming into Club with a little bit more heat, you do wonder if things might have been different. Club itself was, I believe, statistically the most defender-sided map of the pool that we'd seen over the tournament until that last game, which shows how impressive Bliss were on their attacks. As you said in the break, it could have and maybe should have been a 5-1 half.
Welcome back to the B stream here, SI24, day 4 of the groups. We've got Geekay versus NIP, and it was a bit of a little heater that we had on Consulate. Went all the way to overtime. Felt like NIP started really strong. Obviously, it was a bit back and forth, as really we kind of anticipated Consulate to be. That 47% attacking win rate in a defensive side of meta. It kind of makes it at least a little bit closer to that 50-50 margin. It was that way. NIP started to pull away, and then there was that magical tactical timeout.
Yeah, for sure. And whilst it wasn't like, you know, they didn't instantly win 6 rounds in a row, but they won 1, and then they lost 1, and then they just continued winning until the end of the game. So that is something to keep in mind. Definitely a good turnaround there. Realized what wasn't working for them and what they needed to change to start turning things around. But we do have to say, NIP, they made some mistakes. Some big mistakes that have led them to basically allowing Geekay to get away with some of these rounds.
Yeah, a couple of moments that spring to mind. You know, remember back early on, Music probably should have got a trade over towards managers. Didn't get that. No F not mine usage. You think about the way that some of the Candelas were being used as well by Pino to clear out things like yellow.
I was going to say, you can just drone and see it's clear, right?
Yeah.
It's like, or get one of your teammates to drone and you see it's clear. Now you use 4 Candelas, there's no one there. Like, sure, it's clear. It's like you could have used that in the execute because they lacked. They just walked in and got shot as soon as they wanted to go for the execute because they had nothing.
Yeah, one of the strengths as well to begin that game, I felt, for NIP was they were constantly getting a lot of those opening kills from their engagements. That kind of dried up a bit as the game went on, and I felt like GK started to get involved there and started to dominate. A big factor for that was probably Noodle. Noodle ended up 9-9, but he started out at like 4-7. So he actually came strong towards the end, and I thought he became very influential. Hashem was insane pretty much the whole way through. I thought he was incredible. And seriously, probably in the overtime portion, picked up probably half of his kills in that fashion. Yep. So, you know, really solid team performance I felt like that we got from GK. In terms of the opposite end of the spectrum for NIP, it was kind of the Pino show until it wasn't. And then when it wasn't the Pino show, lo and behold, like 5 out of 6 rounds were won by GK.
I mean, you can see it, right, when that happened. Round 8, he stopped being the Pino show, and boom, GK suddenly win like 5 out of 6 rounds. It's insane how quickly
he ended
that
13-10. He started like 12-4.
Yeah, that's exactly
like a 40% cost. So a big change there, I think, from Pino. I'm not too sure why or what was the main difference. You kind of think back, opening half, what were the strengths for Pino? He went some really sick vert angle shots where, you know, he was already being watched, still was able to win from down below. He was hitting some really good, clean shots. That opens up the map. That makes it easier on a map like Consulate, but it just dried up really as the game went on for NIP. We head to Bank next. Now, Hap, you've got some interesting kind of stats here as well for this map.
Yeah, I'll first let's start with the history between these two. They have played this map before against one another. Back then it was won 8-7 by GK.
Ooh.
Now, if we look at the overall Bank stats, GK over this year, so from the 1st of January 2023 to now, have played it 6 times, won it 4 times, lost it 2. They actually have a +6 round differential. And then if we go over to the side of NIP, they really do like the map to some extent. They've played it 10 times. They've only won it 3 times, however. So it's not the best of maps for them, but a lot of them are like 8-7, 8-6 losses. It's never like a true blowout that they've seen.
So it's interesting you say that, because it's like for GK, there's a lot of these overtime wins. For NIP, there's a lot of these overtime losses. You're starting to see what I'm putting together in terms of what might actually eventuate here. Could you imagine a world in which we get a GK overtime win against NIP 2-0? In terms of what that could set up, right? The storylining of like what this game really means, especially now into this map as we go through the bans, is the fact is this is NIP's last series of the group stage. They do not play tomorrow. They find themselves still only on 4 points. 1 point at least confirmed there for GK by getting that win. If they win the series, they get all 4. More importantly though, FearX still play 2 more matches. One again against Dark Zero later today, and then tomorrow against GK. If they go on and win any of those, there is a world, a very possible world, and NIP could get grouped. Now, that all probably changes with at least 1 map win, which makes this bank so important.
That's it, right? Because a full-on victory 2-0 is 4 points. If you win in a 2-1, you get 3 points, and the opposing team get 1 point. So if you manage to get that 1 point out of the way now, you have yourself on 5, and that basically forces like a completely
it means
different kind of
FearX would have to get a clean 2-0 and something else.
and a 2-1 or a 2-0 like tomorrow. So it is definitely possible, though. And the thing is, like Dark Zero, they're currently 5 points behind on that first seed. G2's not playing today. They are also almost like confirmed, depending on how this game goes. They might be confirmed for the upper bracket at that point. We might realistically see a team where, and I'm not saying they would, but I'm just saying like when there's nothing like really on the line anymore, like G2 for example tomorrow, they probably want to get first seed. It's like if they don't need to, we're going to see them slow down a little bit. Other teams could do the exact same thing, right? Like it is a long tournament. You cannot play. Nicholas said it as well. You cannot play every single game at 110%. That's just going to tire you out. So we might just see a bit of a sloppier game happening, and then suddenly NIP could find themselves in the elimination zone at the end of tomorrow.
The good news for NIP, though, is to avoid all of that. It's in their hands. Simply
it's in their own hands
Just win this map. It's your own map pick. Get Bank over the line. And then even on border, it's probably less ineffectual in terms of what actually happens there. So for them, and also I think NIP are far too far away from being able to confirm any kind of upper bracket placing, especially since they can no longer get all 4 points here anyway. So really for them, it is quite a simple task. Win 1 map, you go through, you're not going to get grouped, but you're not going to get anything higher than that. So the task for them is set pretty comfortably. There is a world in which they could also still lose this map and very much still go through, because FearX would have to get results, and that's something that they've clearly struggled with. But just pretty much laying it all out into the table. GK will be starting defensively here on Bank. NIP to begin on the attack. Bank in its heyday, in its spike-on eras, yeah, usually one that you can see attack do quite well. But like every other single map at this tournament, defense has prevailed. So expecting GK to start well here.
Yokai drone is here to guide the Nitro cell. It's blown early. There's no one near that. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking about that one, but you know, starting to open up some verticality. And of course, we do have to go all the way down towards the basement. We are starting off in the top floor. That's standard procedure. You need to make sure that there's no roamers out there. You just make life a little bit uneasy for whoever might be out there or might be thinking about going back out there. You still have a C4 prep there? No, one C4 they had got blown up. So it's just wondering what Felix is currently doing with the Yokai drone all the way upstairs.
Yeah, interesting.
Not getting too much information that's useful out of this. There's no roamers. So we'll try and get that drone back to its site. I don't know what he's doing because there's no one there that can challenge.
Minute and 12 seconds. That Yokai will eventually make its way back down. And you're right, it's probably a bit of an overfocus. To be fair, there's other players that are doing other things. Shock drone to get rid of the Vulcan canister. In fact, get rid of both Vulcan canisters. Or, sorry, at least one of that one. One more available for Seriously. Yokai is going to be super important here, along with those gas babes as well from K in terms of just that denial. If this ends up being that kind of server side push from NIP, goes to that default plan through the doorway, which is exactly where they've got that diffuser, then again, time denial is the win condition now defensively for GK. Cannot afford to screw up this Yokai.
No, definitely not. You need to have this Yokai to be alive, and whilst he's trying to stick it in the right place, you see the person slowly starting to back in, and smoke canisters are starting to pop. They're definitely sticking. No damage was actually taken by cons from that one, so second smoke canister tossed as well. Third one might be coming through. It's all going down quite quickly, as Hashan will be the opening kill on the hands of Psycho.
Yeah, Yokai is going to be the biggest factor, though. Gas babes seem like they're off the mark. Cons again sticking. But again, this is another Yokai burst that has been successful. They're not going to be able to get this plant down. Double red. They all just stack sight. One more chance here for the Yokai to finish this off. Con up he goes. Doesn't stick it. Oh, he goes to the hatch. Oh no! A serious misplay. Plant down, but it's a 2-on-1. Despite everything that's going on, Geekay still have every chance of winning this round.
Defenders have located the
Gonna use the drone to try and figure out where Cons actually is. It's not going to be in server. There's only one way he can really beat him. That's inside of blue. He's gonna get stunned, but takes out the Yokai. Still active and able to fight though as he sees one go by. The long armor fails. He needs to rotate, swaps over to the bearing 9 as the person comes up. Cons gets the clutch, and that is a huge misplay with the Yokai. The hatch was opened up. You were not able to stick it there.
Oh. What has happened there? We're praising good positioning. Yokai's effective. It got 2 plant denials. Just needed one last one. No one could shut down the drone. And then bloop, straight up through the hatch. That is plant successful. Then it's a retake. Hap. Even still, despite all of that, it's a 2-on-1 retake. They get information towards blue. You know he's in blue. It's a 2-on-1, and they just solo. One just goes on the plant. The other one's honestly not in the best of positions either. Oh, Geekay have thrown that round heavily.
I mean, you saw it. Like, there was going to be a long arm attempt, and there was only, like, a little bit showing. And, of course, Cons being stunned, it's a difficult shot to hit. But what you could have done is protect the president, just stand right in front of it. You would have been able to actually get that shot off, because the Type 89 is not the biggest of magazines. Like, probably as soon as he takes you out with the difficult shot it is to hit, it might already be over at that point, but let me just set the scene straight. 62% defensive win rate this map. It is quite defensive. It is over the average. This side that we've just had,
That's the side.
that's the side that you need to find your defense, first of all.
Yep.
And that's a huge fail coming out from the side of GK.
Well, yeah, I mean, for basement on Bank, it's essentially a freebie, the attacking teams, in terms of what they can try and get. The other sides are going to be your more tertiary sides up above, top floor, staff and open area, for example. But the fact that they were able to get one early, basement straight away, in the fashion and world in which they did, I mean, that is a mental tester for GK. An incredible round. But for NIP, they probably needed something like that after losing Consulate in the fashion that they did. Nitro saw yellow ping. I'm not too sure what the yellow ping is here.
It's probably
preemptive yellow.
Tell us when they're here. Now, what I do want to see is the Twitch drone, actually, from the side of NIP to do work earlier. They need to get rid of those Vulcan canisters way earlier on, because realistically speaking, they should have ran out of time.
I'm a little surprised he's gone for the pre-place. I would have liked to have them hold it and play off of the Yokai and then get the yellow ping in a more live fashion. What is that turn into Janitor for?
What is that impact right afterwards as well? It's like misplays coming through. Like, they don't have the full map knowledge. Hashem taking a little bit of damage as well as the skeleton key is starting to open up. Muzi's trying to hunt some information, some utility, and as he's headed over towards the blue stairs, you know, it's going to be Maxfilling his drone. There is a player out there who is playing quite close towards the actual engagements on blue stairs. They are unaware of his position so far. It is the smoke. That's a huge pick if you manage to find him.
Reloading! Yeah, I mean, smoke over towards blue, pretty standard here on a map like Bank. Typically, we'll have a deployable shield, but if you want to be less aggressive, you don't really need it.
And this is the moment he has to run, considering the fact that the hatch on site is being opened up. There's no safe way back unless you're going to stick yourself inside a CCTV, which might actually be what they're doing.
You can stay top blue stairs. I mean, it's not awful if you've got someone watching in towards site. And then, yeah, I think catches Psycho off guard because, as you say, you're right. You know, typically you want to fall back when that hatch is opened up, but he kind of just holds the death area where it's like, okay, I'm probably going to die, but can I take one with me? The only problem is you're playing the smoke. On this side, you really want to be getting those gas pipes out in terms of denial. One still inside a server as well. Noodle just can't survive. The angle from Pino opens him up, gives them the advantage. Looking to open up that wall, going for the plant. Hashem will fall too. It's all falling apart for GK. The fact that they're about to lose basement 2 rounds in a row, this is an awful start for them. Down to just Tricks now remaining. Cons, Pino, and Wizard, and Pino makes it 3 and makes it 2-0 start for NIP. The bounce back here on Bank has started early.
It definitely started early. And okay, let's go back towards the blue stairs. Is Psycho be a bit annoyed by the way he died there? It's like, I just flashed him fully with the Candela, and he just swings me, gets me with the SMG. Like, you saw him like just sit back and be like, okay, there's nothing I can do except for call now. Of course, his team still managed to clean it up. This right there, he's fully blind. Had no idea where he was going at that point. Tried again with the shotgun, but failed. But the rest of the team still managed to just clean up afterwards. And again, Smoke is such an important character, especially in the last minute of the round. As soon as the hatch starts to open up, you basically need to start rotating back. Because if you are playing on that staircase, sure, you have a shotgun. Sure, it's easier to hold. But your utility is so much more useful to be on the side. And also, why didn't he smoke himself when the first Candela came out?
Yeah.
Stops you from being pushed.
Worrying signs right now for Geekay on bank to begin with, but I will say, to play devil's advocate just a little bit, was back on Consulate, they also started a little slow, didn't they, right?
Yeah.
Changed things up really as the game went on, and they were able to have that timeout. Second half was much better for them than the first half. But in saying that, the fact that you're losing Locker CCTV twice in a row on bank, that's certainly concerning. More than just kind of losing the first 2 rounds, it's losing it in that fashion on defense.
I mean, one of them they should have won. The other one, they had no business winning whatsoever. Like, the second round was just NRPs from the get-go. The very first should have been a GK round, if we're being honest.
I agree with you there. We do go up above, though. Top floor, second floor. Here for another opportunity over towards CO. You know, outside. Get these claymores in place if they've got any. Don't see any, actually. So this will be interesting to think if GK maybe want to go for a bit of a jump-out play. We do typically see it when there is that heavy repel presence outside of CEO. Hashem with a very acute angle up close, but he is playing the Azami. Probably more likely to see him maybe go for a swing than block with the Keeper barrier. Goes prone. Would not be anticipating him to go for a jump-out. Surely not on the Azami.
You kind of don't want that, right? You wanna make sure that all those Keeper bearers are being used and have the opportunity to well, basically help your team. However, as everybody's going up to the roof and there's no claymores, as soon as Pino starts tossing out these Candelas in the side, I wouldn't put it behind the side of GK to just try and go for a jump out.
Wizard, this is interesting. Over towards front desk. Hype launch is successful. Nice little red ping. That onto Noodle. Hon's now making his way towards top main, but he gets shot. Nice little swing through the corridor from Seriously. K got one as well onto Pino. In towards Janitor. Psycho, he's got the kid. Into Janitor. Can go in towards site. Rotate hole available. Tricks as well with the kill onto Wizard. GK have the advantage, similar to their opening round, but this time they look like they're going to be able to get the job done. Psycho's gone all the way through. Janitor past site, in towards airlock. Minute 15 seconds, and he's eventually shut down by Noodle. Okay, GK's on the board.
Again, going to a different site, not backing up for the same site for a third time in a row. And now my question is, are they going to do the exact same thing, right? Just completely avoid CCTV and go staff room open area, which is a normal tertiary site, and then go tellers?
No, I don't think you'd go tellers. I think at that point, if you win staff and open, you're probably going to go basement.
Back, right?
You got to go basement. Well, we'll see what this round does bring for them. Certainly a lot better there from GK, NIP. Yeah, interesting round. No claymores. Didn't really go too overly aggressive, though, on the rappel. Anyway, one thing I like, though, from GK, right? You bring that castle you typically see on CEO to block up those windows, but it was actually then the Azami with the Keeper barriers re-blocking them every time. So they made it very difficult for NIP to play the rappel game, forcing them to try and then push in over towards, like, top square. Yep. Didn't work, and in the end, GK, which is a little bit more efficient on the defense, staff room, an open area now for the 4th round.
It is funny to me how, you know, back in the day when we only had a single Heart Breacher, we then got Hibana, of course, to be added to the roster, and really used, you know, opening up the walls mostly, and hatches, really good at opening hatches. But now, every single time there's a castle available, it is going to be Hibana that opens them up with the X-Caros. Just shoots 2 on them and manage to get it like that. It's funny how, like, the gadgets shift in like what they're good for. It's the same as like flashbangs. Usually we're used to waste the ADSs. Now it is the leading meta. Just completely blind your opponent so you can take those fights. It was fun to see like the transition that these gadgets and metas go through.
Well, a good start from NIP. Not too sure whether or not 2 attacking rounds might actually just about be enough, all things considered, when it's said and done. The defensive win rate being above 60%. They'd certainly love a little bit more, though. They'd certainly love to be able to bounce back here on Bank after losing Consulate, a map that was their pick. Sorry, no, that was Geekay their pick. This is their pick. You'd want to win your own map. Certainly would not want to be losing this one and losing 2-0 for your final day of groups as well. Then you're sitting back and waiting. What's the future hold for us? How are things going to go in the playoffs if we do even make it there? Hasham with the opening pick on to Musi. Can't get involved on the Ash. Good janitor control. Good top floor control still for Geekay. That for NIP momentarily are just a little bit stalled out.
That's what we do not like to see from NIP, because that's when things really started to go south. As soon as they started doubting, started, not knowing where to actually go. Noodles using his smoke canisters to stop any push coming in from the top square. Hasham, I'm not sure what you're doing here. Gets himself in trouble, gets himself killed by Pino. Surely that was a bit unnecessary.
I don't think that was a play that was needed, but what I think he wanted to do was get to the couch unseen, unaware, and then catch someone on the rappel. Kind of like the idea. Execution clearly didn't work. Seriously, a couple of shots to the back. It hurts with the DMR from Wizard in towards long desk now. Site being opened up, unfortunately, for Geekay. If they really do lose this top floor, especially towards stock, it's all in control now for NIP. That's going to make it very difficult. Staff and open, really hard to hold when you do give up that vert, when you don't have stock, when you don't have the hallway. Are there going to be any kind of reinforcements? Maybe up main. Depends if they've still got a bit of beepers control. Could go for that push.
Look at the HP though. Pino under half. Psycho basically a single bullet away from death, and there's still 2 keeper barriers left in pocket for the side of K, so he can use those to basically reinforce whatever. And look at the beepers out there. There's a keeper barrier out there that stops them from basically being able to safely take control of this area unless they can get a flashbang behind. He sees them, but actually gets shut down. Pino with a huge shot to come through. Khan's taking loads of damage as well as Noodle goes down. It's only up to K right now. In a 1v4 situation, the plant is starting to collapse. He gets one, doesn't get the second in the first attempt, but does it in the third. The plan will go down in the meantime, though, but it's definitely winnable. Both are about 1 HP away. He gets it down onto one. Psycho coming in from the kitchen area. Cannot connect the shots, and NIP will be able to take the round away.
Away in a very close fashion. It's not often you see a 1v4 that's winnable.
No, not often, but he was in a perfect position to do so because they couldn't really get deep into the site yet. You know where the plant is going now because there's only one position where you really plant in that situation. And it's just the fact that he didn't know about the kitchen player being that deep in yet. If he had that information, that would have been a round win potentially for Geekay.
That start there from Hasham, I'm a little bit confused by that with the push-in. I think he probably just wants to go prone behind the couch, maybe catch someone on the rappel a little bit off guard. Didn't quite work. That was a straight 1 versus 1, by the way. Psycho clutches up, but I mean, seriously, another strange round here between these two teams. Geekay will feel as if they had an opportunity maybe in that round. Doesn't come to fruition. But NIP, they're just scrapping here a little bit on Bank. You mentioned the very opening round. Locker CCTV. Is that a round they should have won? Maybe not. But they did it anyway. Same thing, I think, there in that last round, too, of Staff and Open. Not the kind of round where they looked ultra dominant. It maybe was a couple of mistakes from the likes of Hasham from Geekay. But ultimately, they were able to punish that. 3-1 lead here on Bank. And so far, for what's been a very successful attacking half from NIP.
Definitely has been a successful half for NIP. But again, really working into the mistakes that were made there by Geekay in the last round, because for a second there it looked like NIP didn't really know what they wanted to do up until they got the openings not really given to them, but they managed to get the down and managed to get another injury up on the top floor, and as a result finding themselves with another round win, 1-3.
2 rounds to go inside of the half. 2 opportunities for Geekay, and they must get this next round or 2. Absolutely, 1's not going to be enough. NIP looking to redeem that performance in Consulate, where Geekay was able to win out in overtime. Just outside front desk towards top spiral. Drones going out, information to be relayed for the rest of the team as they make their way towards basement. Noodle sitting first floor elevator. Last time out from Geekay, heavy emphasis was on that Yokai. That Yokai cost them the round. They've opted to go against it. Instead, they planted the Oryx of Noodle to try and maybe be a nuisance on this elevator side. Can go up and down. They still got delay at least with the Goyo and the smoke, so didn't really need the Yokai as well.
Yeah, and of course we have the Cade that is going to be making sure that some of these hatches do stay closed, which really is in the end an advantage. Now, there is a Thatcher on the side of Psycho, so if they double EMP, there shouldn't be an issue whatsoever with getting these hatches open, so let's hope that they do. This one. Doesn't seem like there's any juggling going on whatsoever, so it should just open up.
I'm curious because I thought as well, you're playing the R6 here, Noodle, so I would have loved to have seen him now jump up elevator and then eventually go for a flank, but Wizard's still around main stairs. Nice shot back from K, bottom hatch, good into cons.
There's actually 3 players inside at the moment the hatch opened up. Like, they were all falling back and trying to get into safe ground, and all of them were just quickly taking a peek at the hatch to see if they could find themselves a fight, and eventually finding Cons for the second time around and shooting him down. 50 seconds left, though. Fire is currently burning out. They still really haven't got any good control to go for a plant, so I'm not quite sure where they want to go with the diffuser. I mean, I assume it's still upstairs in the hatch that just, you know, saw Cons lose his life. Muzi now recovers it.
Bro, is Noodle going to do anything? I've been watching him bottom basement this whole time.
He's waiting until they go for an execute.
He's making a very long wait, though. But to be fair, right now, he's not necessarily needed because all of the shots from those defending on side have actually been really good. There's that jump up now towards that first floor, going for a long rotate. He's nowhere near the action. To be fair, the action's pretty much done anyway because it's a 5 versus 2. 15 seconds left. Muzi with the diffuser in hand. Hashem gets a kill. It's flawless. Clean as you like. Finished off by actually the Vulcan canister of Hashem. He'll get the double kill to close it. I wasn't being overly critical of Noodle. I was just sort of like, at some point he's gonna make the move. He did. He did it a bit late because his team killed everyone.
I think his plan there was to just stay hidden for as long as possible, because if you jump up too early, they're still going to be on flank watch and they're going to be shutting you down.
Yeah.
As soon as the execute comes through, everybody needs to be watching the one person that's planting to make sure that they don't die. And I think that's the perfect moment to get yourself into the mix so you can make sure that the verticality is going to be in control of your team, and then you could just clean them up via the hatches. So I think that's what he was waiting for out there. And of course, like, it helps when your team kills everybody. So he didn't really need to get in action.
There's nothing worse when you're playing flank and then you make your move and then everyone dies on side and then you're like the last one alive and you're like, oh god.
Or the other way around, you make your move, but everybody dies before you can even make your move. And the round's over and you win.
So 2-3. Do we get another 3-3 half? We've already had 3 of them.
Yeah, might be
2
possible.
of them. Obviously back on Consulate, it was 3-3 into 3-3, sent us into overtime. Geekay will be wanting to do that just again as we go back up towards the EO. I love the way they played this last time with the castle and the Azami blocking up those windows and really kind of forcing NIP to either go into the airlock or go all the way around to the other side of the site. They bring the Kaid again. Range up though for NIP with that Ossa. And this time around, now last time there were no claymores, this time there are through Pino on the Kali. One placed already, he'll place the other one for the jump outs. Noodle gets caught by Wizard, didn't quite see where that was going to be from, if that was a full-blown jump out or not. Either way, that is an early death in towards front desk maybe? Didn't quite see, I don't know if we can find it, but either way, not the start that Geekay were certainly aiming for to begin this final round.
Now, this is an operator we do not often see, especially on LAN. Using the Kali. Of course, the SMG9 is a good secondary to play with, but the CRSX, I believe, called 300, the sniper rifle. Some letters and numbers. No, it's CSRX 300. I believe there's a sniper rifle. Either way, you know, one shot and you have to recycle the bolt. It just takes a while, and if you miss your shot, you're basically guaranteed to die.
I know that Tex has been a big fan of Kali since making his return into pro play, been really using it, abusing it. Okay, and towards Janitor. Keeping an eye on that rappel. This time around, Geekay haven't really been able to deal with the rappel as well as they did last time. Last time out with the Azami Castle Barricade combination, I thought that NIP really couldn't deal with that. I think bringing the Kali has certainly helped them. Psycho on the Capital to get ready to send in some incendiary bolts, can certainly clear out some of this utility. Along with the fact that he's got the Gon 6. Minute 20 though for NIP. They got the player advantage, so it's fine, cool. They can take their time. Kit is on the rappel for Cons.
Shows us such a poor position as soon as that fire comes through. It's basically being forced to go aggressive, but 4 on the rappel. Surely is a danger. You don't really have any direct support, and as Hasham is now digging himself in deep on the opposite corner, how are you going to deal with him? You have more fire arrows? No, they don't.
They have one player inside of the building hab. It's Muzi, top square. That's it. Everyone else is either outside or on rappel.
He's trying to find a clean kill, but he's just seeing suppressors. He's like, you keep seeing like that feed passing by, the suppressor just swinging out, but he's not able to find anything. And as Hasham will find Psycho, it might fall apart a little bit for NIP here.
Oh no, Scrappy
is in a scrappy fight and drops as well. Wizard has to Spider-Man himself down. He's the last man standing. 30 seconds though. It is some time to work with. Perfect flashbang to go through. to be able to find anybody on the back of it yet, but at least he finds himself closer towards the action. He just needs to isolate these players.
Okay, he's going to win this.
They might, but Wizard got shut down.
Yeah,
GK.
Kit was stuck over towards top square. He was never really going to get there. K was just watching anyway from just outside Janitor. So he had too many obstacles to get through in that instance for Wizard. But what was that attack from NIP, Hap? What in
I was
the
saying,
hell
it's like
was going on?
everybody's on the rappel. I don't know what they're thinking. It's like, what are you trying to find? Because they knew Hashon was close. Fair enough, right? They knew he was behind the boot closet. That's why they put the fire there. But they weren't able to catch him, and he was able to just continue playing in that corner. And then you have 4 people on the rappel. It's like, okay, we haven't opened up anything. What's plan B?
Yeah.
It's like, just go.
Plan
and hope
B
for the
was to
best.
send one lurk in towards top square, 4 players on a rappel outside, and just hope for the best. And really everyone on the rappel was actually dying. Then we actually saw a couple of jump outs from GK. Pino at least got 1 because of the Claymore, but damage was done. And in a round as well, the NIP had the opening kill. Like, they had the numbers advantage and didn't really find a way to abuse that and use that. A little bit disappointing. And we do get that 3-3 half again, 3rd time in a row in this series that both teams have just been able to go with that 50-50 margin. But I'm going to say, little disappointing, because if you think back, NIP, you win the opening 2 rounds attacking into locker CCTV, and then you could only get 1 more for the rest of the half. I really do feel like they failed to capitalize on that half. I don't know if 3 is good enough. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably fine, but with where they started and what they had, I expected more.
I agree. A 3-3, statistically speaking, is great for NIP.
Yep.
However, if we look at the game, it could have also been a 5-1.
Yeah, easily.
So, like, you know, they've left some ground there. They've left themselves a little bit vulnerable towards GK now. And GK, well, they are going to have to go on the attack themselves. They're going to have to attack the exact same sites that they've just defended themselves. Let's see if they find any more success. Now, the first one, again, that is a fail from the Yokai. We can toss that one over to just a user error, we can almost say, on the side of GK. But NIP were very much attacking from a single direction. And there's often like a stylistic difference in how this site can get attacked. What we sometimes see is every hatch to be opened up. We see pressure coming down from every single hatch, which really eliminates the pressure for the actual planter. And the other option you have is just everybody's focusing on getting that plan down in the A-bomb chassis.
I think the goal right now, though, for NIP is make sure that this hatch does not get opened up in towards CCTV. You can see how much utility they're actually applying into it. You've got the two-brow, you've got the cage claws as well. You've also got the Iruni laser gates that were applied too. So that's kind of their goal. Try and keep this. The fact that it's been opened up means that they've absolutely screwed up a big part of their win condition. They brought like 3-4 operators to make sure that hatch doesn't get open. Well, 90 seconds to go in the round. It is open. So for NIP, they don't have much more of that conventional stall out for this particular site, right? There's no smoke. There's no echo. The Vulcan canisters is pretty much all you've got.
I think what happened there is the Tubarão, when it was placed in the hatch on the opposite side of the wall, actually managed to freeze the Electroclaw that was placed to try and get the X.ke as soon as the other Tubarão had finished with the Zoto canister. So they kind of messed up themselves up there. And now there's an opportunity for GK to really open up these hatches indeed, start putting down some early pressure. Peanut going aggressive though with that shotgun onto the blue stairs. This is the Warden. This is the right operator to play here because of the flashbangs that are all around the game every single time. And he will be able to get that second kill off the round. You know, still aggressive out here. Activates his glasses knowing that he's receiving some pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say, very aggressive. He still had a Nitrocell available. Eventually does get flushed out. They've still got 2 more, though, in the back pockets of Cons and Psycho. 30 seconds left for NIP. Player advantage. But they've been in this position so far throughout the series far too many times where they've got that extra player number, but GK just find the presence of mind to be able to get through these scenarios. But maybe not this time with seriously losing his life to Cons. Long-range angle. That's Kit down over towards server on the CCTV side. The rest are coming towards elevator and main stairs. Noodle can't make his way down. It's only Tricks left in elevators. A long way from the kid. NIP close out basement. That's clean.
That's very clean, for sure. Managed to pick up the kills wherever they were going from. It felt like a little bit of a lack of information on the side of GK, which didn't allow them to fully play into that round, not fully get control of where they were going. I mean, you saw quite a couple of people just face-checking the rooms and being punished for it as they did. Of course, when there's, 30 seconds left on the clock and time is ticking down, you don't really have time to go for a drone, but for example, you could have at least tried to follow that one up with like flashbang first.
Yeah, what's interesting in that round, though, again, NIP clearly had a focus to try and keep that hatch closed in towards CCTV, bringing that tuber out. You got the Kaid Claw as well. The Aruni, Soyagate too, placed on that. That's more utility that can be denied the whole way through. The idea was try and keep that closed as long as possible, make it very difficult, because really one of the big conditions of that site is to get that hatch opened up, eventually get the plant down, then you have someone play from the vert watching the hatch down. Really difficult to then get the retake. So their idea was, let's keep that closed as long as possible. That wastes a lot of time for GK. They still got the hatch opened anyway, so I thought NIP failed to actually probably do their win condition, still won the round anyway.
On the gun skill afterwards, of course. And of course, like you look at the Surya laser gate that was placed as well. It's placed on top of the hatch rather than underneath, which means that as soon as that gets popped, there's no reactivating it for the defenders. That's just
but you want it on top, because if it's on the bottom one, then the hatch
of course the hatch will open up. But
Yeah.
if you put it on the bottom, then you know they're gonna have to use utility first before they drop in, or they take damage as they drop in.
That's true.
So it's a bit like, and you can reactivate that one. So if they do open it up first, you can waste a couple pieces of utility.
Yep.
I actually did like the Goyo canister with the Surya laser gate, because the fire might have made it more difficult to see the lasers out there. But it's what it is in the end. Is that gonna hit? I think it'll fill. Oh no, we'll get it.
Yeah, it does get it.
Just get it.
Towards Kanto. Also playing the elevator position now for NIP. They got themselves that lead once again. Only the 1-round lead, though, here into the 8th round. Geekay have really been toe-and-toe with NIP in this series. It just feels like at no point neither of these two teams have been able to gain a significant amount of separation. What are they going to be able to do? Well, they got the Thatcher, so honestly should be able to open up Kanto pretty convincingly, unless Wizard can hit a very good trick. That shouldn't work. That's going to obviously get opened up.
Still going to be putting up one little bit of extra stuff. Oh, another EMP going through. That's unfortunate. All three used there, and every single time right after the Electric Claw get placed. Now, it's not going to be open up much more than it has now, because the Electric Claws will be activating more, and that one should be destroyed unless there's somehow... Well, no, there we go. So it has been activated. Still an angle, though. Wizard has to be very careful trying to challenge that.
Yeah, nothing more that Wizard can really do now besides probably just sit here, wait for that eventual push up towards top spiral. Minute 12, again, time has already been wasted in terms of the pressure being applied towards Kanto from GK. Wizard will just happily sit inside of elevator in terms of the rotate for GK. Well, Kit has been taken top square with K. Musi obviously on the mirror inside a janitor. Not necessarily sure if he's going to peek out towards that stock hallway. Inside of stock is still Con, so a large portion of this western side of the map is still very much filled defensively by NIP. It's a slow peek, though, from K. Anticipating the swing from Collins. It did come through. He was smart in being able to just get away from that second trade. 40 seconds, though. Again, time will be a factor, as has been really in this series for both teams.
They don't know what they're trying to do here. They don't really have the opening from the top of square, so I think they just need to start pushing themselves into the janitor area. But there's so much pressure out there for the side of NIP. Cons being the first one that they need to take down as he's playing around on the swivel position, and definitely is a lot of pressure that is going his way right now. But he's playing this perfectly. He's just sticking back, not really putting up too much pressure as the main push is coming in from the main stairs as well now, but everything just seems to be falling apart on the hands of GK as NIP are just locking them off almost without any trouble whatsoever.
I kind of feel like doing my Parker impression here from that round, because that might be one of the worst attacking rounds I've seen so far. Just bizarre in its approach. We clearly got to see at the very beginning of that round emphasis on opening up Kanto, as you typically want, puts that hallway a little bit into the sightlines, and so it means that you can't just kind of lurk and linger in that if you want to play. Yeah, and in the end, it didn't matter, and then they didn't do anything else. There was no real vert plate down below. There was no real pressure on main stairs. They eventually had K. The one thing I didn't actually mind was the lurk from K, but he's also got the Kit, so he can only get so aggressive. Like, if he gets the kill into Janitor and then pushes in, and then dies, then Kit's in a really bad spot. Just a really strange round into attack pause. 5-3, NIP take the lead. I think, honestly, this one's probably got 2-1 written all over it in terms of the series.
It's a third map.
I think this is shaping up to be a third map. There are a lot of similarities to Consulate, though. I will add, in that we got to this kind of point in Consulate, whereas NIP's been the better team, NIP's looked better, NIP should close this map out, and then came GK out of nowhere, seemingly. Could that happen again?
I don't think so. NIP is feeling a lot more confident on their defense out here, and GK honestly look a lot more like they don't have a clue on how to attack this. And that's not attacking GK, it's more of a, like, okay, so let's just break down that round. All the hard breach was used in opening up Kanto. Player goes off Kanto hold. So you basically lose all the advantage you got from it. Of course, they need to be being careful of the fact that, you know, there might be a player still holding it, so it is a bit of pressure onto the defense. But after that, you see them take very heavily towards the top of square. But there's reinforcements. There's also a soft wall. Did they have anything to open that up with? No. So what do you have left? And that is just to push through Janitor. And Janitor is such a key position in this hold, no matter what this strategy is, because it holds off all the repels, it holds off the pressure that comes in from the top of square. And they also have a player that's on long desk, and have a player that's on the side. So even if you manage to get Janitor, it's almost guaranteed you would die right afterwards. So it just felt a bit like, okay, we've done opening Kanto, but they didn't think about step 2. They just didn't have the utility for step 2.
Hard to disagree with you there. Certainly one of the more stranger rounds offensively from GK. It felt like back on Consulate that GK definitely had more of a plan in their attacks. In their approach in those rounds, I felt like they understood what they really wanted to do. I mean, they obviously picked the map, rightfully so. They should obviously know what they want to do. But right now on Bank, to begin the first 2 rounds, there's been just some question marks in the way in which they've kind of approached the first 2 rounds. NIP, though, also looking a lot better defensively. And I think, again, the overall consensus for me, despite the fact that GK's 1-0 up in this series, NIP's been the better team.
They haven't been
for the most part.
It could have been a 2-0. Let's just put it like that. That first map should have been theirs, but they started making some crucial mistakes, which GK masterfully punished. We have to say that. We have to give credit where it's due. But NIP, realistically speaking, should have locked that map off way before that went to overtime. And now you start seeing their true class. They're on the defense, basically not receiving any pressure whatsoever from the attack of GK. Like, it comes down to 30 seconds of trying to make a push happen, but there's no real pressure onto the side, so it's only 1 or 2 choke points they can really try and utilize.
Very curious to see what's going to happen out of this tech pause. Again, they can't really talk. They can't, kind of talk things over. I don't think GK's taken their timeout yet so far on Bank, so it's something that will be available for them. Opting to hold it for now, unless they take it after the tech pause, I don't think they would.
Could be the case.
Going into the 9th round, though, they are down 2 rounds. If they lose this one, then 6-3 becomes a little daunting. Then you get a couple of match points that you've got to overcome, but they did that back on Consulate. This is the thing. NIP had 2 match points. They were up 6-4 on Consulate, and ended up losing 4 rounds in a row.
No, I definitely agree. It's possible for GK to bring this back. There's no question about it.
Oh, I was right.
We are headed into it. I mean, I did think I'd see it because I saw the coach of NIP like start wiggling the microphone as in getting it ready to speak.
You know what? I actually think this is really smart. I like this tactical timeout from GK because, one, you get to kind of halt the momentum, a very small amount of momentum from NIP through the tech pause. Now you get to also then talk things over after everyone's had a little bit of a break.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, you can basically completely reset the mental out here, or at least try as much as you can during a game. Of course, there is a bit of pressure on here because GK know that if they manage to win this, they basically find themselves out of the groups and go towards the playoff stage and find themselves in elimination matches. Instead, if they lose this now, they might find themselves in an elimination matchup later on tomorrow. So we get back into it. Here on Stream B. Open area is going to be the site that NIP will be headed, of course, due to the fact that both CCTV and CEO have been locked off due to their victories. And then the big question remains. GK, how are you going to be approaching this? Because in the previous 2 rounds, you felt a bit not completely clueless, but underprepared. Like, you get your step 1 done quite decently. In the first round, or round 7, I was opening up the hatches, setting yourself up, wasting a lot of the utility. And in round 8, that was opening up Kanto and receiving yourself some long line of sight that you should be able to utilize to stop the true pressure from coming through on the player that was playing on stock. But after that, it just falls apart. And that's what we need to see click now for the side of GK. They need to be having that first step complete, but they also need to be able to find step 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Another part of the equation now as we go to staff room and open area. The tertiary site here on Bank, an opportunity presents itself for GK off the back of a tech pause into the tactical timeout. Clearly, this feels like a big round for me. You lose this, you don't have your tack, that's done. 3 rounds that you then need to overcome. not easy. Yes, they won 2 to close out Consulate and send it to overtime. It's a different figure, though. You can't put a foot wrong. And there's sights on this map, most notably basement. And NIP's played basement really well on Locker CCTV. That will be difficult to win. It will open back up at some point if the run-through does come for GK. So this becomes an ever vital site. Must-win territory. Pino front desk.
Unspotted so far. No drone has seen him. And GK currently not on their drones either. Lost quite a bunch of them if you're even looking at 2 left. How do you have 2 drones left at this point? Where did all of them go?
Attackers have dropped the bomb defuse.
Yeah, that is interesting. We haven't really get to see it ourselves because we've been kind of watching Pino a little earlier. But the fact that it's down to 2 drones. Solus is on the board, of course. Wizard on that. Pino with the pistol gets the kill onto K. The one and only hard breach as well. Dead. 90 seconds into the round. Advantage NIP off the back of this tactical timeout for GK. It doesn't spell good news to begin with. Plenty of time to still turn things around, but clearly they're going to go hunting as well. Shots from Musi. Hunting is what is going to be the aim of this game. For a heavy roam game. Solus, Malsey, Legion, Pulse, all of these operators happy to just be running around. Come find us. Search each end of this map, essentially. And Musi gets involved with the kill onto Hashem. Start to get ready to head us to border, I think, Hap.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's no information game, and while Pino does get taken down, it's at least a little bit of a strike back. So all they really have left is those 2 drones. So actually 1 drone left, because Frill just lost his, but they do still have that 1 Logi bomb. So that's the one piece of utility they really need to make good use of here to try and find themselves back in a 3-on-3 situation, because as it looks right now, lots of information on the side of NIP. Just Musi on that pulse, for example. That's just a living drone that's just going to be able to spot you through the walls and give that call. Look, okay, push seems to be coming from the kitchen side, or hey, push seems to be coming from the hatch. So they can really reassign themselves accordingly.
20 seconds remaining, heading into the deeper stages of this 9th round. NIP looking for 3 match points, seriously through archives. Kit over towards the main breach wall, in towards Starford. Collins is holding on for dear life on that Legion, just making sure they can't open up triple. This is going to be big. Noodle gets a big kill onto Psycho. There's a trade though. 3 seconds. Got to start getting the plant down. Who's got it? No one's going to be able to get that done. It's an easy win in the end for NIP. A struggle on attack for GK once again, even after the tactical timeout. They can't find a way forward, even on the tertiary site. This one looks done.
It looks indeed like NIP should be locking this one off, but we said that as well on the previous map, and then suddenly GK managed to come back. Although that was also slightly on the back of that tactical timeout that we have just had, of course. So, as we go back towards lockers, again, I mentioned it, this should be the guarantee win for defenders. With the amount of wasting time that you can do. GK really need to bring the best game right now. And usually, sometimes what you see is like at a 3-5 score line, maybe a rush comes in, right? Because it's like it's not the end of the game if we fill, but it might be at the right moment to surprise them. I don't think that is something that you even want to be considering right now as GK.
No, I don't think so. And looking at the lineup that they're bringing, I think it's going to be about just heavily overload that server side. You've got the Ossa, you can open up the wall, put the Talon Shield down, plant behind it. But then to do that, you really got to get those hatches opened up. Would love to see a little bit of pressure maybe from the other side. Go for that sort of lobby hatch open up. That maybe go for a bit of a flanking from behind.
Yeah.
Do something a little bit different, because right now, at least from even both teams' perspective, it's just been that kind of default server side push that we see time and time again get stalled out, especially from the smoke and the gas babes.
The thing is, though, there's no Twitch on the board, so there's no early taking care of the Goyo canisters. Those are going to be lasting up until like the last minute and a half. Basically depends on when the hatch opens up. That's when they can actually try and find a way to get those canisters. So it is going to be a time game in the end, or they need to go for a bit of a different approach, and that's what they're doing now, trying to take that garage control. Seriously, he's using the Ossa shield to try and guide himself some safety. He's going to be setting it up so he can now try and challenge Wizard. He's playing around the back of the card. Of course, they both know where each other are. Both can look through that talent shield. There'll be a bit of a support coming down as well from the opposite side of that garage, so he always has to challenge too, and seriously just gets his head removed by Wizard. I think that was just via the side of the shield.
It was, but like, my goodness, it's like a pixel hap. That would have been so close.
It is. It probably is very close. It's hard to see considering, you know, that there is the car that you're looking through. It's too. Was that electrified? I'm not quite sure actually. Like, okay, no, it wasn't. Okay, I was going to say for a second that would have been a very unfortunate loss of x.ke. But this is also an issue I was going to be pointing out. Even if they were able to take Garage and they still wanted to go for the default plant, look at the heart breach potential they have. 6 x.ke left.
Yeah.
You need to be opening up that wall on the side.
Shuts down a big win condition as well now for Geekay, because you really want to get that talent shield deep into garage next to the ambulance and make sure it's looking in towards loading dock. Makes it difficult then for the defense to be able to run across, especially from bot main, try and help out towards CCTV. Instead now for Geekay, they just don't have that at all. They're down a player already. Now they just have to kind of go back default, server room push, open up. They don't even have any kind of talent shield, because at times you can go and open up the left side wall, put that talent shield down and plant behind it. They don't even have that as an option. Like, their secondary options are gone.
It's not just the Goyo canisters that I was worried about right now, because we also have the Evil Eye still on the side. We have the smoke canisters still on the side. There's a C4 still available as well for the defense to be using. It is looking very dire right now for them to actually try and get this plan down. I don't think this is going to be working. This must be an NIP round.
Yeah, they've been absolutely taught a lesson here, GK. This is going to be NIP's round and NIP's map. 30 seconds left. Unless GK can find a way to do something miraculous here in salvaging this round. It's not over just yet. Funny things can happen. Some good shots certainly can be hit. They've got to try and get their way in, though. Rotate hole has been opened up. Final gas bait being thrown out by Pino. That'll be his last one with 15 seconds again. He can stall this out. What you've got to do now as K is push past it. Go to the bomb chassis. You've got to get in there. You can't just sit in the smoke either. Now he gets to that bomb chassis. There's the Evil Eye. K's dead. That's the round. We're going to border, baby. Let's send this one to 3 maps.
I was gonna say, it's not enough utility on the lineup to try and get themselves in there properly. A Twitch drone would have been helpful. You could have taken out the Goyo canisters. Something to get rid of those Evil Eyes. For example, something to even open up the wall. I mean, sure, you had the Maverick out there, but it is so time consuming, and if you did that with like 50 seconds left, you're just not going to be successful. GK really struggling on the attack out here, not winning a single round, and they haven't looked close to winning a round in any single of those rounds.
4 rounds in a row from NIP to close out this second map of the best of 3 series between these two teams. And what that map gets them to is to at least 5 points minimum, which now means for their sake at this tournament, very unlikely to get groups from here. I'm not going to say impossible, it's not impossible.
Definitely
but
possible.
It's very unlikely now that that's going to happen. And it puts an emphasis now back onto GK. Close this out, otherwise you only get the 1 point from it. Then you got to play a do or die match against FearX tomorrow. If you do win this still, probably, again, means that for FearX, that would be very much likely their tournament done. So a lot, really, to ride on this next border coming up for at least now GK.
Yeah, that's for sure. They really want to be making sure that that border is going their way. But I think they need to have a little bit of a chat, because the attacks looked poor on back. There's no other way to put it. It's like they thought of one step, and then just not about what's needed afterwards. And that might be a bit harsh, but it's like, sure, you open up the hatches, but you can't open up the wall, you can't get rid of the utility inside. You cannot expect to get a plan down on CCTV that way.
No, certainly not. I mean, full credit to NIP, though. I thought they played a lot better on bank than certainly what we saw from them on Consulate. But even then, Consulate wasn't that bad. I think you said it as well during that game. This could have easily been a 2-0. It's not, though. It's a 1-1. We go to a short break. When we come back, though, we continue on in this matchup. We head to border.
Way that pick, it's under the bubble is underneath his feet. Sage is going to get down by a Maestro, probably can't see. Souls goes off of it, but he has no idea that that bubble is underneath. It gets pinged out, and Brendo gets Vidaking from the hatch down. They don't know that Brendo's in that position, but suddenly Cyber, he's sort of saying, hey, we're sitting pretty, or whatever it is in Portuguese, and at this point they're going, uh-oh, or whatever that is in Portuguese. 5-3 now, and it's still not over. They've been in this position and things have gone wrong before, but this is some of the best sort of conceded attack that we've seen, the concerned effort towards the players in the place. You just got to keep your eyes on the kit, the fight, either side. Do they know about Cyber? Because the Cyber NATO is about to swing around the corner. They have the pings on the player, but the drone has rolled through. The C4 does get the catch! Oda, again, still struggling in this fight, and the fight goes back against them. Handy is able to take care of Wet. The 3 versus 3 as Souls slinks his way back towards and gets Fisho through the soft. Disaster starts to strike. Brendo Boy, all that's left with 50 seconds. They can't quite get the confirmation. FaZe sit on map and series point.
5-3 for Bliss. And again, we're privy to info, but there was hardly anyone on the objective. There was one player deep inside of lockers. Bliss, all they had to do was consolidate, ensure they had square control, and default could have begun to be worked. Instead, Oda gets caught in lobby. That was not really a particularly good playmaking position. And then another outside of that push through to open area. So again, Bliss slipping up. Obviously, they got into the round with a couple of slip-ups from FaZe. Nice shot there from Brendo, who again lurked into that position, but so close yet so far. Once again for Bliss. And unfortunately for them, they now are staring down the barrel of series point.
Twice they've attacked that site, and twice you would describe it as a situation where it was close, winnable for sure. And again, that pressure just strikes. As you said, we are sitting here able to see that there's no one on site. Getting that second kill that they got that round, I've saved Sage's life from that Maestro bubble because the Maestro popped off. There was about 3 zaps left in Sage's foot before he hit the ground, and they got what would have been one of the worst ways to go. Sort of like death by 1,000 drops. But in that situation, suddenly the Maestro is the only one on site. He's on the opposite side. The default is unwatched. There was a little bit of a rotate towards the site, the hatch above itself around open, but that's where Wet was putting on the pressure and was holding on to it. Again, just these tricky moments, these tricky reads that are going against them. KDS on the job that I said they sort of struggled with towards the middle. I mean, we've seen a player die to a Capcan trap. They're going to try their best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, Capcan in play. So important that that information is relayed effectively by FaZe. Cyber again going for a swift entry. He's been so deadly, especially on this buck roll here on Bank, and in particular on this objective, often sweeping in through open area. At the moment, just making his way down bot square. His eyes now on Brendo. Probably the first target on his hit list. Brendo needs to be really careful, because I don't think Bliss have any sort of a read that Cyber's being able to sneak into this position.
They are either side of a very narrow fight here, and the Sam Cams are getting some idea of the rotations onto lobby, and as you said, Cyber's unchecked right now. Brendo does not know they're on the other side of a soft wall, but both these players are more than capable of it. You sort of have this wish to shake them and say, look, you know how close you are to each other. Raptors in Jurassic Park. Stay still, unfortunately not still enough. There goes Brendo, the first off the board. A player who has had many moments swinging into the favor of Bliss right now is unfortunately the first to find himself on the opposite end, sitting watching cams. Vidaking rolling through and getting the read on the next player for Cyber to tear his way through. Sage does find Vidaking. At least makes it not an entirely clean take, but Wet, he's under a bout of pressure here. He has the shield. The drone is going to give some of the game away. He's waiting for the swing to come round either side and just takes the drop and thinks, nah, not going to sit around and see what happens next in this story because Green is under pressure. There's the Barb to stop some of the motion. But again, the top 2 floors have been cleared at this point.
Yeah, the drone work from FaZe in this round, impeccable. Hunting down these players off site. Brendo, the first to fall immediately after, oh, pardon me, Oda then immediately falling after, again off the back of really good information gathering from FaZe. Drone's now in sight. They know what the utility is in place. They now have 30 seconds to formulate this push.
Everything has been prepped here for FaZe, and they have been very good at this specifically. Getting the kit down at the dying throws and knowing where they need to watch things. A C4 from Fisho does get the down onto Handy, and Wet gets KDS. Suddenly it's a 3 versus 2, and the 10 seconds are left. They're getting the player up, and Souls drops and tries to rock one, but Fisho has the trade out. It's a 1 versus 2 technically, as the other one's got a plant. The vertical gets the kit. We're going all the way.
And Mingarang rallying the troops. Really well done at the death there from Bliss. It wasn't the best of starts. FaZe dismantling the roam. However, once again, they fall to a retake up above. It happened very early on in this game. If we cast our minds back, FaZe allowing the retake, I believe, once more up the main stairs. Hatch presence there, able to deny the plant for a second time. And with no time or manpower left on the
have recovered their
clock for
defuse.
FaZe.
10 seconds
They
remaining.
do fall. And the scoreline, 7-7.
5 seconds left.
I mean, the sort of perfect cover, wet. They've been playing a hell of a game throughout this so far. Sage as well in those situations. And this is those moments where you sort of say, oh, Bliss's games before, there's been a player that's popped off and sort of set the pace here. At this point, you're up against Cyber, who's been having a hell of a game. But to be honest, you look across the boards here and it's sort of evenly matched. The one or two missing moments are being picked up. Either side, 7 apiece, as far as it could possibly go. They're breaking records right now. They've taken an overtime round.
I was going to say they've doubled their overtime win count, but you can't multiply it by 0. So
I'm sure there is at least 3 people that are actuallying right now.
well, they could double it now because they have finally captured one.
Yeah.
But it will have to be in the attack, and we go top 4 for round number 15. What will the push be here from Bliss? They brought the Monty once again, so they're not going to revert back to the Oster strat that we saw previously.
Yep.
It would probably be Monty up Banana, but once again, Cyber playing the Valkyrie, and if he's using the same camera and it isn't spotted out by Bliss, it could make it a challenge for the Aussies.
I mean, there's this almost frustrating thing here about the Aussies not bringing IQ, right? And obviously, Cyber has played...
It's the same one.
Yeah, and they've played Valk every single round, and they've played it very well. They're 15-10. They have been decimated multiple times by players coming up round the back, not knowing about these surprise strikes, and instead of going, oh, we have an operator who can just get the read. It's such a big room lobby. That's why the SAM cams, that's why the Valk cams are so powerful here, because there's a bajillion different places to tuck those little cameras and make things tricky and sticky to see. KDS takes the first scrape of damage here. Hey Monty, you're on cam, called in 4K, yada yada, said before. I feel like I shouldn't have to keep saying again.
I mean, if Bliss split the attack properly, this could actually work out in their favor if it draws FaZe over towards lobby and then they can hit, you know, top square and stock. There is, though, utility standing, and I don't know if Bliss have a particularly good read on that half of the map, so I don't know if that will be an option. It does look like there is a bit of presence outside top square, and obviously the repel game from Bliss at the moment. I don't think that castle got cleared. No, it didn't.
Might have just rolled underneath, I think.
So I'm looking at Brendo here. I'm looking at Brendo to probably be the one to really help unlock the round. If he can sneak a pick or two, whilst everyone on FaZe is, you know, honing in on the Monty, it could slip up here for FaZe. Handy the first 2-4 actually from that front desk position, and the Monty advances forward.
Now Cyber needs to try and make some work happen underneath, but look how deep Fisho's gone. He's all the way towards the side of CEO. He's fancying a new title and job, and that might be to try and get the kit down. The coverage of the plant could come together, but they want to keep pushing for the kills. There's the smoke. And Cyber, the big rotate round the back as Oda. He's able to strike into action when he's needed the most. KDS still taking these scrapes, but it's Brendo to get the end of Bitter King, and Handy goes down. They're going for the plant. Cyber, he's had an exceptional series so far, and this is his moment to shine for FaZe. As he's trying to rebuild and restructure with KDS, he's just sitting, waiting inside the smoke. The cover and the swing comes out, but there's Cyber over the top. They're going to see if they can stick it as the final blow comes together. 3 versus 1. Many of these have gone away from them. A post-plant Monty. This is one of those situations you say is impossible, but Cyber's one of those players who can make that happen. He cannot this time round. Bliss, baby! You take your first map at this SI. You take your first map at SI Australia in about 3 years. Can you take your first series is now a question being honestly posed.
Oh, they did it. They actually did it. I cannot believe it. Yes, finally, Bliss. They convert a map, and I could almost hear the sigh of relief from the boys downstairs all the way up here in the studio. What a way to close it out. I mean, what a play. I mean, the fact that Fish pushes all the way to the other side to try and get the plant down. They got stalled out for like a good 30 seconds, and I'm like, guys, please, 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 not like this, not like this. But they got the job done against the number 2 seed, one of the favorites to make it to the final of the event. So a monumental result for Bliss, and I cannot wait for this third map.
It's also the last time an Australian team has beaten a Brazilian team. Was against FaZe at that SI I talked about before, but the series is still yet to play for, and FaZe can very much still take this on Labs after a very quick break.
One of the biggest wins at the tournament thus far, and no, it's not NIP over GK. Bliss with a big win over FaZe on the A stream. Not gonna lie, I did add a little extra to the timer just so I can go and watch it, but a big game happening here as well. Obviously for NIP in terms of the storylining hat, that map win pretty much means there's very little world in which they're gonna get grouped, but it does also mean a lot for GK for all of the negative reasons, because now if they do lose Border, they have a do or die match then tomorrow against FearX.
Yeah, that is what it would be coming down to in the end here. So GK really want to be setting themselves up in a good way for Border. However, the attacks that they've shown on Bank do not make me happy.
Yeah, and doesn't probably set you in a good mood going to Border, where attacking is going to be something that you need to be good at as well. Similarities probably across the entire series so far. Consulate into Bank, into Border, and it's about that attack. Who can be a little bit better on the attack? And I've got to say, when we closed out that last map, we were both in agreement. This feels like an NIP 2-0. We go to Border now. The good news for GK, though, is they did win a map, clearly back on Consulate, where they were able to turn their fortunes around in the map. Now they've got to do it, though, for the series.
Yeah, that's always going to be the big thing. They need to do it in the series. They need to turn it around now if they want to get themselves an opportunity to basically confirm themselves and not have to fight such an important matchup tomorrow against FairX. But again, I wasn't looking too happy about what we just saw now. It's like they weren't thinking too far ahead in their rounds and everything was just falling apart after the first steps were completed. Now we're headed towards Border, where luckily it's a paper-thin map. It's not as many steps as you need for Bank, for example. Like you take one room and you basically have half the map already under control.
Don't have to overthink it as much.
You don't have to overthink it as much. You can basically just rush plant every single time. That's what it can come down to. Like you can just bring a shield. Of course, Monty's been banned, but also could work. Just place it down wherever you want to plant. Have a glass to back you up. Ying to go through. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, we'll continue our little pre-match discussion of this map as we go into a tech pause imminently here. Armory and Archives will be the first side. No one really would be surprised by that. But GK are going to be starting on the defense first. Now, that's interesting because, of course, we've been kind of maybe not really liking their attack that much. So the good news for GK is they can kind of go on the defense to begin with. Border's been fine defensively at SI, of course, so far, as has been all of the maps. And so it gives them a chance to maybe just kind of get their feet set, right? Get inside of the server, get some rounds, get a bit of a lead. Because one thing that's been a bit of a, I guess, a trend over the first two maps, for NIP on both Consulate and Bank, they've been the team that have started well and got rounds early, and it's always been GK kind of chasing behind. Now, they chased well on Consulate to the point where they got the win, but clearly on Bank, it got to them.
No, for sure. Like on Consulate, they managed to keep up and then eventually take off themselves, and NIP couldn't follow. Not the case on the other hand. Like the first half, really back and forth. 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, and then 3-3. And then afterwards, it's just NIP deciding to, that's enough, and we'll take it from here, and taking that win. So we kind of need to see the opposite if GK want to be taking this victory here. They need to be continuing that chase, or just even get ahead of it. But again, starting off on the defense, it is 57% defense-sided. If they would be only getting 2, then the game's over.
Yeah, I think I agree with that one. In terms of like a player that I'm looking to for both teams, Hashem for me, for GK, I thought he was sensational back on Consulate, very influential. Noodle as well, someone too who probably didn't rack up like a super high amount of kills, but I thought was very impactful. When you kind of think about Bank, I felt like those two were missing a little bit, at least in that impact. So I really want to see a little bit more from them for GK. In terms of NIP, the good news is it's not really just been the Pinot show, right? Like we've seen actually probably a decent little team effort from everyone across the board. So I really enjoyed that. Maybe Cons is the one who's kind of not quite been able to really get going, but he's also been the one that's like, you know, with Kit, supportive role, not really like the frontline man. So that's not really a big issue anyway. So for me, NIP, I like the fact that they've got that kind of team focus. For GK, it's probably down to the likes of Hashem and Noodle to get the job done if they're going to have any chance of winning here on board. Again, in terms of what this map means, for NIP, essentially nothing. All things considered, they're not really going up, they're not really going to go down. They'll stay in the middle pack of this group. For GK, a win means that's pretty much unlikely that we're going to be able to see FearX get out of this group alive. They will most likely be eliminated later on this afternoon. A loss for GK, though, means that sets them up in that match, do or die, against FearX tomorrow.
The stakes, and thus we get underway. Now, we do see, I was talking about the rushed plants to some extent, and how you could bring in Ossa for it. I think we're going to get a nice demonstration from NIP right at the get-go. as they're setting themselves up. Double Claymore, just to make sure if the first gets shot, you turn the corner. The second one will blow you up. And now the Yosta slowly creeping up. It's going to be opening things up, but you start looking on the left. Oh, there was no C4. 5 impacts, though.
Yeah, I mean, the impacts alone are okay enough. The main thing you can do with those is firstly just even open up the floorboards. Then it's really difficult to play
Huge
from. But
pick, by the
Pino
way.
gets a big pick into sight, yeah, and onto the Legion as well. So this is a good start so far for NIP. Nice shot back from Seriously. Very acute angle. Gets the head onto Pino. So that's decent because that could sort of a pretty aggressive play outside window. Nice shot as well from Psycho. Good aggression early on from NIP. In towards sight, straight in towards Armory. And a bit of that Archives control as well still. I mean, really, for Geekay, it's basically like the rotate in towards security with a bit of Fountain. Seriously trying to keep the pressure in towards Archives.
I think what happened here is Cons was actually trying to get that plan down, but he was receiving some damage from the fire. Pino not really able to get the shot in properly, and thus taking that damage later on. Now, he is still out on the Archives balcony. Now, Seriously is rotating around, of course, has the opportunity with the Solace to find some information. The Armory control is there for the side of NIP. Are we going to see a full rotate coming through? I don't think they would. Seriously, we'll take down Wizard, though. So it's back to a 3-on-3. He's still playing below. He can see when this plant is happening. They should also be aware of this, though. So Cons, he's going to be planting himself up onto the concrete, which means that there's no pressure from below coming in.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult to get out of this position, though, but if no one's really watching it, and I think Seriously might be in a position where he can kind of punish Cons a little bit. Get someone on that window, though, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. NIP just not rushing this. Get him using it in a good position, maybe on the upside-down rappel outside the window. Cons will go for the plant. No real response. Again, you mentioned it before. No Nitro Cells makes it very difficult to get it up and over and try and deny that plant from going down. Eventually has been successfully planted by Cons. Again, no real response here from Geekay. Whether they want to or not, they just don't have the utility to deal with this kind of plant behind the Talon shield in the corner. Seriously, a noodle. I mean, Seriously's got 3 kills. 30 seconds. Still something in this round to be won with, but across the angle, and Cons just playing from behind the shield. They've looked everywhere except for the man behind the shield.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been looking at the start of this round and you already knew what the plan of NIP was going to be. Just slightly went wrong a little bit, but, you know, not wrong as in crucially wrong, but wrong as in, okay, this is a setback. We need to slow things down now. And, you know, I mean, you see the Ying going in the middle of Armory basically puts the defense already in a little bit of edge because it's like, we don't have control of the biggest part of the site. And it's like they could plant at any given moment, but we don't have a way back into the site because it's like we don't know where they are. And due to the fact that you lacked the actual C4, the plant could go through. Cons could just stick it, and all they could do is go for a swing.
Would have loved to have seen like some kind of vert plate down below with a Nitro Cell. That's typically what you'd see from defensive teams, but it doesn't come through. And clearly NIP have just read into that. They bring the Ulsa. You can also bring the Montaigne, but it has been banned out in this instance by Geekay. So maybe they kind of like just forgot that you can bring the Ulcer in this situation to do basically the same strategy. Because they've banned out that Montaigne. Montaignes typically walk in, someone then walks in behind the Montaigne, gets the plant down, and then that's basically it. And then you good luck. You know, but to counter that, you still then have the pressure from down below. They didn't have that, and they won't have that again. No Nitro Cells, just 4 impacts. The impacts are fine in terms of that initial doorway entry, but once it's like on the concrete in the corner, good luck.
I mean, it's fine if you want to take down the Talon shield, but if someone is on a ventilation balcony, there's just going to be cover there. You need to deal with that first before you can even try and think about stopping that plant from happening. Now, we do have the exact same site we're headed to. However, if you look at the side of Geekay, again, basically no changes. They picked up 1 set less impact. No C4s either, so...
Change though for NIP, not going
no
to go
Ulsa.
for obviously the same play, no Ulsa, and I think that's fine. You already won at least one of the rounds with that tactic. You're not going to probably overplay that. A bit more of a clear roam here, I think, with the Grim, the Finker, the Bark, trying maybe get a bit of that security control.
This feels like they want to take control of Armory mostly and start doing that vertically first. Like half-wall, for example, is a very important part of the map, so start clearing that out vertically. But as they open up the hatch, Pino's going to be much aware of K, who is located in that area, deals just a fraction of damage to Pino. Nothing too much. He's not going to be worried about that, really. But, you know, he's just going to continue his plan. Start opening up in the half-wall, start clearing that out. In the meantime, CCTV is being taken control. They have a flank drone set up with the Argus cam, and they find themselves on the side. All they need to do is take down Trilix here, who now does go down. Team kill as well to happen from the side of Cons onto Muzi. That is more unfortunate. But they do have the opportunity to go for the plan now, and they will just stick it. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, Wizard just straight in through the doorway. He's going to be able to get the plant down left side of it. K gets to come to Pino. Wizard immediately just runs straight back out. Impact from below, a little bit too late. Wizard was able to get out of there. Certainly winnable here. And a kill onto seriously changes things dramatically now for NIP. Collins as well! Oh, he was the support player in the first 2 maps, but it's a double kill to clutch up. Talk about just walk in, plant. No retake available from GK. Worrying signs here for them defensively on border. NIP continue to be the better of the two teams in this series.
And that was even with like a team kill to come through, right? Because their decision was to, okay, Armory is pretty clear. It's just one guy standing on the close corner. What do? We just swing him. And if the first one doesn't get it, the second one will. If you then team kill the second one, then the third one will eventually get that kill. I mean, actually, he was down, and then Cons just blatantly executed his teammate coming in from the...
That's not as bad. That's not as bad then. And in the end, Cons was the player who was able to then go on, get 2 more clutch kills at the end.
He salvaged it.
Yeah.
He salvaged it, but he could have cost around
For the greater good, I must put you down, my dear friend.
The sacrifice I'm willing to make.
5 kills for Cons, which I think is probably more than everything he had back on Consulate. Because if I recall, his Consulate was like 3 and 11 or something like that. To be fair, he was playing like support buck with the kit most rounds, so he wasn't really someone who was on that front line getting a lot of those kills early on. NIP though, really clean start, and on obviously a site that typically on border is going to be one of the more profound defensive sites when it's Armory and Archives. So really disappointing right now from GK in the way that they've kind of approached these first couple of rounds. So much so that they've gone down below, given up on the primary. Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? Defense Bank, first 2 rounds, Locker CCTV, lost them both. So many similarities here between the second map and the third.
It's basically just a complete rerun, but then on a different map that we're seeing. But what I'm worried about now is the fact that, you know, they're going to ventilation. And that B bomb site is quite difficult to hold. It's just a window jump in. If you're not paying attention, you might lose out on an early plant again. But this time Cons does go down quite early. I believe that might have been a spawn peek to come through. The diffuser kit has been dropped as well onto the balcony. So that's a huge pick coming in for the side of GK that they now just need to convert into a round win.
Yeah. You obviously see in the chat there, Noodle just saying WTF. I never saw that from Cons. Obviously... Random one tap.
That's why Noodle said that. He's like,
so even
he fired a single shot.
I really hope we have the single POV of that. I don't know if we will or not, but still, that was clearly the kind of kill though. That's like 1 in a million. You don't really look at that and be like, oh wow, amazing. As he even said it himself, random one tap, and he just happens to get the head of Cons.
This is the thing, right? Like these players, they do that like 1,000 times and they hit it once. And that one time, it is worth it because it's like in a very important round right now.
Yeah, and for us average Joes, it's like 1 in 10,000.
1 in a million.
Well, 90 seconds in, and it has probably shaken up the attack of NIP. Just even the time wasted in trying to retrieve this kit as well. Not really a whole lot of map control. This is much better from GK off the back of basically a random one tap, but they're also just defending up above perfectly. NIP have not been able to get a whole lot. Only just now Pino over towards top east stairs. And trying to see if he can find some information. Has a red ping to the right-hand side here. I think that's seriously on the Legion.
Yeah, that is definitely him. And, you know, he was thinking about going quite aggressive earlier on, but the goo mine did actually hit on the top of the east stairs, but wasn't able to find him because Pino just moved out in time. Now, as we go through, Pino will find seriously. That is going to be bringing things back towards equal numbers. Of course, we still need to go downstairs. There's 50 seconds left on the clock. There needs to be a lot more done by the side of NIP if they want to get a plan down. As Noodle finds Muzi, that is going to be complicating things a bit.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Still a bit of time, 40 seconds. NIP is still only that 1-player disadvantage. Clutch drone out from Pino. Plots the observation block over towards top metal side. He hasn't really seen a whole lot here close towards this top floor. Of course, still need to go down below. Wizard towards top metal. There is still Hasham. I don't think he got spotted out. Maybe a bit of a mistrone. Over towards Sui. Pino doesn't look like he spotted him. I think, yeah, indeed it was a complete mistrone from Pino. He did not check that. 15 seconds. Round should be done for him here. You would imagine with 2-player advantage. Not a lot of time either, and not even remotely close to sight. Psycho towards bathrooms. That's about it. Drop down from Wizard. It's okay. They have survived it momentarily, and he does get the kill, but no time. Needs to stick to plant. He needed to get that kill. Then the plant doesn't come through, and GK still had a player up above. Big round from them. Started all off with a bit of a random one tap, which I've been given word we might have footage of.
We might have footage of it.
Later on, not now.
Now, again, GK managed to, on the back of that, convert it. So that is a good thing for them. They really needed that. NIP, they took too long. They were attacking top floor for the majority of the round, not really making any progress. The missed drone comes in and just things go wrong at that point, and it's just something that is unfortunate for them. But again, they managed to start off with some great 2 rounds up onto that top floor. Now it is Geekay that will have to decide, do we go bathroom tellers, which they do, or would they go back up to the top floor? Again, I said it before, 3-3 is a good round for NIP here. If they manage to get 4 rounds, then basically this game is over. So the pressure is really on Geekay with NIP already 2 on the board.
Yep. At least for Geekay, it kind of stems the bleeding a little bit after the way that things went on bank for them, losing the first 2 rounds here on Border, especially on Armory and Archives. It just kind of felt a little bit begrudgingly that it was going away from them, but that was a round that they sorely needed. They win it out. We get a bathroom and towers. How does this get played out? Heavy emphasis on the drone game from NIP, bringing the Roteros, which is really solid, being able to clear things out on site. Clutch drones now from Pino as well. They don't bring the Twitch, probably not as necessary when you kind of look at the lineup that Geekay is bringing, so I don't mind this. They do have a couple of Nitrocells too this time at least. Obviously playing the Pulse now with K and Trill with the Nitrocell 2 on the mute. At least a little bit more impact defensively in terms of the utility for Geekay. Top waiting being held as well. So extensive up above. Hashem on the Azami. Up there as well with Trill. I like the map control that Geekay have got right now.
First Pulse was there last round as well. And we started seeing a little bit more of it over the last couple of rounds. And it's just such a problematic operator because of the fact that you just, you have that information as soon as you do use that cardiac sensor scanner. And it just related to the entirety of your team, so they should be aware of the fact that where all these players are on the attack.
Nice little hole here from Seriously. Catches out Musi on the balcony exterior. He had no idea that that little death hole was in play. Patience is a virtue, and he does get that kill. Start again for GK's good, and a 5 versus 4, 2 rounds in a row. Clutch drone goes out. Bit of information, saw a couple of red pings, and the information so far has been good for GK. K, though, losing out towards detention. That pulse, you mentioned it, has been in play, but it has been shut down.
I'm not quite sure what he's thinking there. Like, the wall has been opened up. Like, surely there's going to be someone playing there, right? Like, you activate the cardiac scanner and you just die instantly afterwards. And NIP will take it happily as they're also going on with hacking some of the default cams right now. Will be more useful later on when they actually want to go for a bit of an approach onto the site because it is, of course, in that corner area where you can just look into the bathroom. You can see whoever is coming in from the metal stairs. So you basically have your flank watch cam set up now.
Minute and 10 seconds, 4 versus 4. Still 1 Nitrocell available through Trill. Impact as well for Hashem. Not the worst map control either still for GK, and a lot still needs to be done for NIP off the back of the E1D now from Wizard. 1 more available. Cons is able to move through. Has the kit in hand. Noodle roaming around on that Oryx. He's someone to keep an eye on as well. Cons a little bit uncertain where he wants to go. Now towards bathroom, but a nice swing and peek from Trill is successful onto Cons. 2-player advantage. Brought it back though with the trade for Pino. A little bit delayed, but it comes through regardless. Noodle in towards service. Still hasn't been dealt with. Drop down from Psycho outside, so focus now on site for NIP.
Good shot from Pino coming through, and now really the player inside of the workshop needs to make some work happen, but also Noodle still being above, of course. The smoke comes in, that's going to be covering the plant. Seriously aware of the fact that someone might be outside the window, but they need to make something happen because the plant has just gone down. 45 seconds, and Psycho has the perfect cut to basically shut down any of the rotations to come through, unless he gets pre-fired, which he does. Noodle with a great pick to come through. Pino now in a 1v2 standing. He's trying to dig himself in deep in a position they might not really expect, but he could be flanked. It could be double swung, and that's exactly what they need to do. Are they coming in from behind? That is that big question. Of course, he jumps over, finds the first, will find the second. Pino, a huge clutch to come through.
In a 2 versus 1, back against the wall, quite literally. A soft wall for Pino. GK trying to blow it up and try and force him out. He does come out and he hits the double. GK will be kicking themselves, and they look a little bit dispressed. I mean, they obviously feel like that's a round they probably should have won. How many times have we said that about GK throughout the series? Obviously, well played from Pino, but it's all set up early on. Good plays from GK, good map control, won the battle in the hallway. That's kit down when Cons is eliminated as well. 3-on-2 at this point, let alone the fact, yes, they do get the plant. That swing's beautiful from Noodle. Then it's just about a pinch. You just have to go together. Instead, it's 2 1 versus 1s that is created by Pino. Big win, 3-1 to NIP. 3 attacking rounds here on Border. And so far, they've put themselves in a much-deserved lead because all things considered for this series, I'm sorry to say, but NIP should be winning this series. I will be absolutely surprised if GK win this, because throughout the 3 maps we've played now, NIP have looked better.
I agree. It should be NIP series by the way that things have been going. And just to quickly relay back on that last round, why didn't someone push an open area and then the other one through the door at the same time? There's no way you're going to get that 180 flick at that point in time before you can at least strike back. So, again, slight mistakes, but this time punished by NIP. They find themselves at a bathroom round, and we're back towards the armory now. This was won twice by NIP, and it wasn't like a tactical master play where they completely picked apart the entire defense. No, it's just they managed to find the first kill as Muzi just staying alive against Seriously. The other way around goes as well. We'll find a second onto Wizard, though, who decided to go for the repeak. Gets punished for it. So opening kill again for GK. 4th in a row now.
Don't hate it, because Muzi obviously got Seriously quite low. Wizard then thought he could play a bit of an off angle to maybe going for a repeat, but Seriously was just, gun up, ready to go. Hits the nice headshot, so they lose to Zofia. Obviously, the Adrenal Surge kind of doing its thing. Muzi will get his health back, but they don't win out against Seriously. That's the Solar still alive as well. Not ideal in terms of drone denial that can come through. And again, though, fascinating. 3rd round in a row now, by the way. GK have got the opening kill. They just have not been able to get these opening kill conversions in terms of round wins.
That's it. Like, they've been getting loads of opening kills here and there, just not able to find that little bit extra that's necessary to drag it across the finish line. Seriously, just used his last impact as well. Of course, he's playing on that Solus, and the reason I'm pointing this out is the fact that NIP has been repeatedly able to just walk inside and go for a plant. There's nothing that was being done about it. Having that impact could have actually been quite useful to open up right below it and see what else could be done, as Cons will be able to find K. That's going to be the Legion gone. No more new goo mines to be deployed. And with that, it's back to a 4-4.
Yeah, love that, though. Pushing in with the Boogie Auto Breacher, mainly because of the sound cue, makes it hard to know whether or not he's gone in. That's kicked down. Nuzgul again from Seriously, standing up at an individual level, but eventually shut down. Trade comes through from Muzi. Low on health is Cons and Muzi, but no more Adrenal Surges available. Those have been expended. Gone. 60 seconds remaining in the round. In a 3 versus 3, where it's a still slight advantage for GK. Not a whole lot of map control for NIP, but they've been so good at hitting these shots. Pino is still inside of the server. Cons has been playing really well. Flash into the hallway, straight into the arms of Cons. Hello, welcome, says Cons to Hashom in a 3-1, just like that. Suddenly, big turnaround. It's only Trill in the 1 versus 3. No smokes here either. The other day I saw a team throw a smoke into a warden and it turned into a 3K. Won't happen here. 40 seconds for NIP to gain a 4-1 lead.
The diffuser is down on ventilation balcony. That was in the hands of Psycho, and he died out there. So it was a really good opportunity to actually just win this by stalling as much round as possible. But that is definitely not helping. Jumping into the air jab, the drone spotting out as well is definitely giving him some anxiety by trying to find it through, and Cons eventually will be able to pick it up. He didn't know that diffuser was outside. If he would have known, you would have fallen back as deep as you could into armory after you take out that drone, because that leaves them guessing. That forces them to take the fight. That puts the time into your advantage, but NIP able to bring it to 4-1. And again, that is like, that was the 4th entry kill, I believe, in a row that Geekay made.
And that was definitely 3.
Yeah,
don't know about 4.
I have 4 written down.
But you've got 4, and so if you've got 4, then I'll go with that.
And they've only managed to translate one of them into a round.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously been a bit of a story here on Border, which has not really been the case in terms of the series. I think back to Consulate, and it was actually NIP that was getting a lot of those opening kills, right? And then obviously on Bank, they too were also translating a lot of opening kills into round conversions. But here on Border, it's kind of gone against the grain of the series. GK getting opening kills. They look good early on, but they're just not able to close rounds out defensively. We are seeing 4 attacking rounds to NIP on Border. Mind you, historically, you think of Border and you go, well, yeah, attack is fine on Border. Not at this tournament.
No, it's been 57% defense-sided so far. And as I mentioned, if NIP managed to get 4 rounds, I think this series is over. I think they're just going to be able to lock it off from here, especially...
They've already got 4 rounds.
I know, that they already got 4 rounds. So have the opportunity for 5, especially if we keep in mind how GK attacked during the previous matchup. Need to do better than that.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing here from GK. Of course, Consulate was closed, but they brought it back. Bank, yeah, quite one-sided to NIP. So far, again, here on Border, shaping up to be more like the second map rather than the first map, in which GK were able to just clutch up against NIP. They were down too much points, brought it back to overtime, won it out. bank, though. Yeah, 3-3 first half. We thought we had another close game. Then NIP won 4 in a row. Border, though, has just been a total onslaught from NIP offensively. Pino straight in. Look at the pressure that they are able to create early on in these rounds. Well, there's no opening kill this round for Geekay. Now it goes to NIP, and they double down as well. Elsewhere on the map, from Musion to Noodle. Noodle hasn't been able to get 2 involved, 3 and 5. And for NIP now in towards Passport, they've got good map control. They know how to get the job done from here.
It's such a good opening, and they make it even worse for the side of GK as Muzi finds seriously. I mean, they saw the pulse, they saw he was isolated. You just go in from Passport. That's the beauty of the buck. Like, it's just 4 shots. You're into the door, you're into the wall. What was that shot? I don't know what he's trying to do there, but... And you find yourself in an opening engagement, and suddenly that pulse is out there without any support whatsoever. Now, as it is only 2 left, you know, just still continuing to make ground. He's just clearing out the entire ground floor. However, because they went so quick, they don't know about the presence that's still up on the top floor. It's not like there's going to be much presence, because there's only 2 players left. Their question is, where are they located? Are they in a position where they can challenge the plant, or are they on the opposite side of the map? And I think that's what Pino is going to try and find out. Now they know with that drone, by the way.
Yeah, I like this as well from NIP. Slow down, get the drones going, find the final bits of information. Muzi, that is disgusting. Softball headshot onto Ashom and really just kind of driving the nail into the coffin of GK. Not so much for this tournament, but definitely for this series. Trill through customs. Yeah, he'll get one. Knocked down onto Wizard, but he will eventually get traded. And it does count as a flawless round because he hadn't been eliminated. It's 5-1. It is the NIP show right now on Border. We've seen some very gloomy faces as well on the side of GK. All smiles for NIP. And that looks like, honestly, faces of defeat. They don't look like they're going to be able to get back into this one. Something crazy would have to happen for GK to bring it back. They go into the attack now. They call a tactical timeout to talk things over.
I mean, just looking at this, right, like you haven't played an attack yet. So what is it really you can talk about? Just the mental, the call-outs.
Yeah.
Fundamentals like, hey, you got to talk to one another. You got to call each other. Like, if you need help, you cannot just take these fights alone. Like, strategically, there's nothing to talk about yet at this point.
It's an interesting thing that always fascinates me in Siege. You think of like, oh, it's 5-1 down, that's too much. How many times have we been like that? And then how many times have we also
Often
seen these comebacks? They're very much possible. Very much possible. The only thing for me, though, is when you kind of look at the statistics of the tournament, right now, Defender sided on every single map. So far, the maps we've had in this series are actually all ones that, sure, have actually looked okay for attackers. They're not quite 50%, but close enough to it. But so far here on Border, it's the nature in which the rounds are being won and how they're being won. NIP have dominated these rounds. They're getting opening kills, and when they do, they get conversions. If they're not getting opening kills, as you mentioned before, they're still getting conversions. Yep. And that's really the worrying sign for GK, is they haven't been able to close out when they get something. So I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do here on the attack. It's going to have to be something very special off the back of the tactical timeout.
It's not going to be a quick plant. We can basically already count that out if you look at the lineup that you're seeing. There's almost no support for it. This looks like a usual try and take control, try and open up, and just take it room by room kind of lineup that we've been used to be seeing like over the last half a year or so. Not much of that quick pace. So that might be back to fundamentals for the side of GK. Whereas NIP, you know, they're going to try and then make life hell for their side. No early openings. There's a bit of a concern there, as you saw with Hasham, just quickly checking all those windows. Like, did any get punched open? There is a little bit of information out there, as they do see some pings to come through.
Yeah, I'm very curious for GK, more than anything. NIP's kind of done their job now. They're on the defense, so it's all about just sitting back, allowing GK to come into them. But for GK, yeah, you're down 5-1, you're attacking, you got to make things happen. Each round's going to be very difficult. It's one thing to do that comeback, but look at this from Hashem, straight up top east. No one's watching at all. Cons completely caught napping for Pino with a good response on the Nitrocell. At least NIP woke up very quickly after they got startled with an entry, an intruder into that location of top east. Good response, rapid response. Psycho then gets with a Trill. And even that little momentary glimpse of success from GK gets absolutely squashed like a bug.
I don't know what to say. Like, Okay, so first of all, I was going to be mad at NIPs. No one's watching the cam. Like, someone could be sneaking up. You heard it gone 6. You know someone's in the building. And they get that first kill, and then it's like a little push, and then they just slap you over the face and be like, no, back in your place.
Oh,
like,
no.
that is just such...
I will say this one thing.
That said enough. Just that eye roll that you had right there. That's like, we don't know what to do.
I want to say, because there might be some people who've only just tuned in, and obviously it's a beatdown here on Border, but this is a deserved beatdown, because NIP probably should have won this series 2-0.
Yeah.
In fairness, obviously, for Geekay back on Consulate, their map pick, they played well, but they were still down 2 match points, and NIP probably dropped a few rounds here or there, that it could have easily been 3 or 4 match points to even get to that point. Credit to Geekay, brought it back, really had a good turnaround. No one's going to take that away from them. But admittedly, then we go to Bank, NIP, far superior. We come to Border, extraordinarily far superior. So clearly being the team that has deserved to win this series, they certainly can take some confidence from this. And for Geekay now, they're going to have to obviously go to tomorrow in a do-or-die elimination match against FearX.
Yeah. Now, of course, it isn't over yet until it's over, but we are starting to lose hope for GK.
That last round of the eye roll says it all.
That says it all, because it's like you have such a good opening, and then it just falls apart like momentarily after. It's not even like, you know, you're waiting like up until 20 seconds left and then it's falling apart. No, it's 5 seconds after that opening and everything's falling apart. The round's over. And then you have the eye roll like that, and it's like... just clueless. It's like, what can we do to stop these guys? And Hasham will open up. We'll get a great opening kill again once some cons. He manages to survive as he exits the building, because what you see NIP do here, there's 2 people currently that were trying to challenge him. So he managed to escape with his life. Now they need to try and translate this into a round.
Ironically, seeing that someone from NIP was watching that default top piece this round, not making the same mistake, but Hasham does get the opening kill. But we said that time and time again for GK here on Border. They get these opening kills, they're just unable to capitalize. That's been the downfall for them. Certainly one of the weaknesses. The strengths, though, have been they've been able to get these kills. Freebie though for Pino. Seriously, just unaware, caught napping, little push out of bathroom. Obviously, it is Bathroom Batalas here for this potential final round, and a 4 versus 4. Hasham's low from those earlier response when he did get that opening kill. And K just waltzed into Workshop with the kid, almost dead.
Not using their drones. I mean, sure, like 5 of them have been taken down. There is 4 out there. But no one is like droning into these rooms or just face checking it, assuming that it's clear and taking damage from like lines of sight that have been set up before. And those are like fundamental issues that you need to make sure are not plaguing you, because right now you have 2 players that are a bullet away from death when you're already basically at an equal point. People flashing themselves as well as they try and go for a bit of an execute, going on the drone. Muzi trying to take a fight will be shut down. That's at least something to hold on for here. But they still need to go and cover so much ground.
Yeah, they certainly do. Still need to get top floor control as well. 60 seconds left. The other part of the equation is Troll, K, Hasham, all low on health. Or it's a full health NIP despite being a player down. I actually consider this about pretty even in terms of where the round is concerned, especially with the fact that NIP still have really good map control for the site itself. With Psycho up above on that Thorn, still needs to be cleared. He can't be cleared. They probably can't win the round, GK. So they've still got to do that. K now droning through, getting some information. Pino will get droned out over towards waiting, and then Wizard is there as well to double stack up. Site a little bit vulnerable and has now just been droned out.
Noodle was actually in a good position to jump into the window. There was no cover whatsoever from the side of NIP, but he just decided to rotate all the way to the opposite side of the map.
They're going to get moving.
There's 20 seconds left, and Noodle just rotated all the way to the opposite side of the map whilst he was right at the site. He's going to be leading the charge, though, from the workshop area, but keep in mind there is still people out there. Psycho still has that top floor under control as Pino shuts down the first before he gets punished himself. 5 seconds, the diffuser drops. This is over. It is going to be NIP that will take it, because the plant is not going to be stuck, and that is an absolute beatdown of GK on this 3rd map.
Yeah, disappointing for GK, but very promising for NIP. A very dominant series. Yes, it goes to 3 maps, Hap, but ultimately should have probably been a 2-0. Learnt their way throughout the series as it progressed. And you know what? For a team that has clearly not been at their best this tournament, maybe playing an extra map here or there is not that bad. Getting some extra rounds and games under your belt, because this was their final series as well for the group stage. For them now, it's all about playoffs moving forward, so maybe getting that extra game wasn't a bad thing, especially when it was a beatdown. Gives them some more footage, some more VOD review potential, etc. 7-1 victory, 2-1 ultimately for NIP over GK. Look, there's some positives here for GK as well. Their consulate was good. They showed good mental. Clearly, as the series went on, though, they were the inferior of the two teams. I think that became quite evident.
No, for sure. NIP, again, like there's 3 hammer lifters on that team. They
are formidable.
So much experience. And of course, they didn't have the best of games lastly, or best of tournaments over the last, couple of years. But they're still a formidable opponent to go up against, and they really warm up as the tournament continues to go on. And it's just painful for GK that it ended this way.
Yeah,
at least this game.
It is certainly painful in the way which border closed out, because I think...
Do we have the one-tap coming in this round?
Well, I'm not too sure. I got told we've got it at some point. I don't know if it's in this highlight package, but hopefully we will get it later on. Either way, for now, though, it's all about the fact that NIP just very cleanly dealt with GK. There were some rounds, again, you kind of think about the fact that we mentioned, 4 rounds in a row that GK got those opening kills for basically one conversion. So from 4-1, those are the kind of little things that at Six Invitational, you just can't get away with. Like, you've got to be able to convert on those rounds. When you get the advantages, you've got to capitalize. And that's what we basically saw from NIP. You can kind of see, even on that instance, right? The lurk push in, get the opening kill, and then everyone else starts winning their ones. Bang, it's a flawless round. So really disappointing from GK in the way Border went, but I think if you kind of look at the series overall, you could clearly tell that while NIP certainly were the better of the two teams, it's not like it was this massive gulf in difference. Probably not 7-1 territory. That Border was probably more of the extreme end in terms of the gap between the two teams.
For sure, but I think Bank on the 7-3, that was also a very just score. Could have been a 7-2, but it's like the attacks. Where were they from GK? It's like on Border, they just weren't thinking further than their first steps, like the first goals they wanted to reach. And well, I mean, they were obviously thinking further, but they couldn't get further than their first steps that they were able to reach. And I think that's partially due to the lineups that they brought, because they just weren't suited for what they were facing at that point. And, you have a little bit of that on Border now as well, but they started off in the defense absolutely annihilated by the side of NIP, who
Look at those first kills.
Didn't care.
Like, imagine winning 7-1. And your one round that you won, and you had a 2-0, a 2-0, a 1-0, and a 1-0 for first kills. No trades back. Only K went 0-2 in terms of negative entry.
Positive entry kills.
That is insane. And yet they won 7-1. I think it really kind of encapsulates and highlights NIP as a structural team in terms of the organization throughout the rounds, that it doesn't just come down, at least for them, as just like, oh, we need to just enter and win gunfights. Like, they're actually able to win because of the way that they positioned around the map, used their utility, had good strategy. We saw that at least, especially in the first opening 2 rounds of Border, that they won the same site in 2 totally different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Pino being the match MVP, and I think a lot of that can be handed over towards his consulate performance, which was, of course, the 13 kills he managed to get there. Sadly, he dropped off a little bit after round 8. I think if he could have kept on that same fire, we would have never seen Border.
Yeah, unfortunate for GK. Certainly some good moments. I thought Seriously ended up actually having, a really good performance. Hashem, started really hot, probably dropped off a little bit. For NIP, it really was that kind of team effort across the board. Wizard probably a little bit quieter than I thought. Pino dominated, especially in a map of Consulate, which they actually ended up losing. I thought he was still an absolute incredible standout. I have been given word we do have that one tap coming up. I'm very curious to see what this is going to look like, and the reason for it is because it even surprised who was it in the end? Was it Noodle that got it?
That fired it.
So even Noodle was surprised. He typed immediately in chat WTF.
So he rotates back, reloads the bailiff, surely swaps over to the MP7.
Oh!
And again, this is just you do this like just every now and then because you never know. And he hits it, and he probably didn't even realize it until his team was like, how did you get that? Where did you take that fight?
Hey, you got to shoot your shot. You never know. It could be that 1 in a million. Let's go to the standings now for this particular group. For A, it's G2, of course, on top still. They play tomorrow. Dark Zero not only played today and also then tomorrow against G2. So that top spot still up for grabs. For NIP now, they go to 7 points, and they are firmly going to be locked in for 3rd place, you would imagine. For GK, though, we mentioned it before. Now they play FearX tomorrow. Mind you, FearX still also played today. In terms of, like, the possibilities, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but, like, if FearX were to win 2-0, then GK are out. Like, that is one of the pretty easy ones there. So I'm looking forward to that matchup tomorrow. It's essentially an elimination game already.
It is going to be an elimination game. That's going to be for sure. No matter what the FairX response is going to be today, even if they win today 2-0 today, if they lose 2-0 tomorrow against Geekay, then it's also over.
Yeah,
so it is really coming down to just that game.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into the tiebreakers all that much because obviously we want to focus on the first couple of days. But if FairX were obviously to win 2-1, then they're both like tied on 3 points. So then obviously comes to the tiebreaker. So we won't obviously spend too much time on that. Those who cover it tomorrow can certainly talk more about it. But it is certainly one to watch. I would say to tune in for that game. It's always fun in the group stage, final day, who gets eliminated, who's going home. And it's unfortunate that that's the situation now that GK find themselves in, because I think they're a really, really good roster. I think they had some good moments today. There is every world in which on a different day they could have probably even won bank if they just played a bit better, and then suddenly it's a whole different storyline.
No, of course, it would have been a different storyline, and they would have already found themselves secure. But I think that is it for now for this game. So we will be tossing to the Intel play, and then after that, the next game will be on. See you soon.